Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
Happy Tuesday! McNuggets is in the house.
Feels good.
Hair combed, looking good.
Showered this morning.
Showered.
Brushed his teeth.
Showered
Deodorant.
this month. This is actually the first shower I took all year, to be honest. Like, 2023 was the year of the no shower. Let it grow. All natural. But, you know, today, shaved, showered.
I mean, you look 12.
Yeah.
When you clean up and you have no facial hair, literally, you look like you're ready for your 8th grade picture,
Okay.
which is a compliment.
True.
I don't mean that in a derogatory way.
True story. I went out Friday night, and they had a gym mixer. For the gym I go to, they had some people out. Everyone got a free drink.
You got carded.
Well, I get carded everywhere I go. That's a guarantee. But I met, you know, you see people at the gym, you don't talk to them. You see them outside. And there's this one girl who I see there all the time. She always says hi, like just real quick, friendly. She's like, wow, how old are you? Like, I can't tell if you're 14 or if you're like 35. I'm like, yeah, it depends if I shave that day. So it goes right back to what you said, Jay.
Was that like a subtle hit?
No, the dude she was with was pretty huge. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta just take your losses when you know it's a loss. But, you know.
In 20 years, he's going to look great.
Let me tell you. So this is a true story. When I was graduating from college, I looked younger than you. I really did. And
I am, for the record, I'm 29, so I hope at 22,
which is stunning.
You look younger than me at 29.
I didn't look 29 when I was 29. I'll tell you that. But I remember when I was sending demo tapes out in mass. A demo tape is your reel, essentially your work. You're trying to get a job. I always used to follow them up with a call because they'd never call me back because I was horrible. I had no business getting a job. But I called one of the news directors back, and I can't remember what market it was. But he literally said, I asked at the end of it, you know, was there any particular reason I didn't get the job? And he said, yeah, to be perfectly honest, I have a son who's a senior in high school, and you look like you could be a freshman at his school.
Wow.
And it was a real body blow, and I said...
But you have to take it, though.
You have to take the L. There's nothing... I can't look older, so I said, do you have any recommendations? And he laughed. Come on in.
I've been informed by Director Steve you need a booster.
Good play, Steve! Good play, Steve!
This is a tease for this is the earliest we ever teased overtime because this is tomorrow's overtime. I promise you, Jason saw it this morning. Jason, no spoilers. Tomorrow's overtime is worth the $59 whatever you pay for an entire year in one overtime. I promise you.
I don't even know what this is.
It's amazing.
No, and you can't know till tomorrow when it happens.
But it ties into this.
No, it has nothing. It's about Director Steve. That's
Oh,
all,
wow,
That's all
okay.
I'm saying. Steve, do I actually need this? No, right? Yeah, get it out.
It's funny that you had to ask.
Well, I'm just as tall as Jason.
I know, right?
I'm just as tall as Jason.
can't see
Anyhow,
him, though.
this
I
news
can't see him.
director
He might need it.
said, look, I mean this in the best way possible, but you're asking, so I'll tell you. What's my recommendation? Start smoking and drinking heavily.
I got told the exact same thing.
Probably by the same news director.
So, as you can imagine, this is 29. At 21, 22, I looked like I was 4, essentially. And my voice was super
so big.
My voice was super squeaky, and someone told me, they go, do you smoke? I had my first cigar of my life on Saturday, by the way.
No
so,
kidding.
like, I don't smoke, like, at all. They go, well,
You've now smoked one more cigar than I have.
and they go, you should pick it up. It'll make your voice sound better. And
Yeah.
I didn't. And
So
that's
Mikey
why I'm here
McNuggets
now.
and I have one thing in common. We've both been told to take up smoking.
Yes.
That's incredible.
I did not, by the way.
Neither did I.
It took me a while to get going.
Do they tell writers anything like that?
No, writers already drink heavily. Like you don't need to tell
They
them.
come into the interview
Yeah.
with a fifth and a smoke.
Let me tell you something. Covering LeBron for 4 years aged me 20. It was like the president.
I will say, you guys can, not you specifically, but that group, I've tried to run with them before. It is hard to keep up because that's their lifestyle. They're on the road a lot more than the TV guys. Even when I was traveling a lot at ESPN, the radio guys live out of hotels and suitcases and airplanes.
Yeah.
And it was amazing how hard they go. 4 o'clock in the morning, still go.
Yeah.
If the lobby bar, which is the hangout, if the lobby bar closes at 2:30, parties always go into a scribe's room. Always, you can book it.
I've only heard one story from Jason about that gang when they were on the road a lot, and I'm not going to say who. You actually may have told the story on air. I'm not going to say it, but the one person who tried to hang with them, was puking out the Uber driving back.
Yes.
So
I've seen
I'm
it
going to
too,
leave it at
yeah.
that.
Do you have a clean or an on-air version of one of your favorite stories you can tell?
That one.
Go ahead.
That one.
I haven't heard that one.
And I'll use names. I don't think you'll be
Oh,
upset.
I
Well,
love
we're
that.
going to get him on the show. So like,
All right.
we can.
We can talk. So Hayden Grove from Cleveland.com.
Bless his heart.
Poor.
By the way, I really like Hayden's a man. Me and him become pretty good friends. Hayden's a good dude.
Hayden does a really good job.
Hayden's a good dude.
He's committed.
He was singing at that mixer I was telling you about.
Yeah.
I walked in and I hear like Frank
He's
Sinatra
amazing.
singing. And
He's
I'm like,
incredible.
Yeah.
That's Hayden.
I
And he
saw
was
him
singing,
at
yeah.
the Christmas tree lighting in
Crocker.
At Crocker.
Yeah.
He's really good.
And my son-in-law my son-in-law is the 7 o'clock anchor at Channel 8. And he was kind of emceeing the festivities. And when we got there, I heard someone sing. I'm like, who is it? That's pretty good. It was Hayden.
Yeah.
And I'd never heard him sing before.
Well, Hayden, forgive me if you didn't want me to tell this story, but we're telling the story. So the year of the championship, 2016, we're in Detroit. And Hayden had made some sort of flippant comment about, oh, I can drink, like I can hang with you men. We're like, okay, we're gonna find out. So we went to some bar in Detroit, and we were actually in Birmingham because they stay so far north.
Right.
And the Indians actually were staying there too. So a couple of the Indians support staff were out at this place. And by the end of the night, I'll get to the end. By the end of the night, Hayden was curled up on the sidewalk outside.
In the fetal?
In a fetal.
He's a
and
big dude too.
and I was like, hey, let's line him up. And the guy with the Indians is like, you gonna go get your boy? I'm like, he's fine. Like, he's fine. Leave him out there. He's fine.
Someone will pick him up.
So we get the Uber on the way back, and it's me, Dave McMenamin, Lee Jenkins from Sports Illustrated at the time, and Hayden.
What a squad.
And
That's a veteran squad.
That's a
right
squad.
there.
and Hayden is in the front seat. Me, Dave, and Lee are in the back, and Hayden's up against the window, and all you hear is, puke, puke. So the Uber driver pulls over, and Lee Jenkins in the back is going, oh my God, who brought this kid? Who is this? Who? And for like the next day, we didn't see Hayden like at all
Yeah,
the
he
next
was wearing
day.
it off.
And then he didn't even know Lee was
he
in the
open the
Uber.
door and he-
Oh yeah, he opened the door. And so then Dave starts cleaning the door, and he's going like, I can't pay the $200. I don't want to pay the $200 fee. So he's cleaning like the door frame
God.
with napkins, and then he runs out of napkins, and I'm like, Dave, you're out of napkins.
Yeah, I don't think I could do that. There's certain levels I'll go to for friends. That's not one of them. I'm not cleaning up their
At
puke,
that
and they're
point,
paying the $200.
Hayden's paying the $200 fine.
And-
I know he's a kid.
and
but-
it wasn't even really that bad in the
No,
car.
oh
Nobody paid the fine, but poor Hayden was
Well, Hayden is
indoctrinated.
not here to defend himself today.
Hayden,
but he will
listen,
be.
I'm in talks with Hayden. He's going to come on sometime soon.
Good.
Make sure I'm on.
Yeah.
Well, make sure Dave.
I think we should drink while he's on.
We've done it before. Yeah.
Yeah,
Next time
just
McQuell's in town, we'll
Do
make
a
sure Jason's
celebratory
there
shot,
and Hayden, and we'll see if Hayden can handle one.
and I want to
Oh,
hear
he
his
can handle
version
one.
of the story.
I've heard
What he remembers.
Yeah, the part that he remembers.
his version's exactly like that, but with a lot less details.
Welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Obviously, Adam the Bull not here today. He'll be back tomorrow.
He's back tomorrow.
G. Bush will also be. Did I get a text that G was
So-
going to be here today?
G was supposed to originally. G's dealing with a death in the family, so G, we're sending you our thoughts and prayers, and hopefully that's all
Absolutely.
going smoothly. He was supposed to be off till Wednesday. Texted us last night saying, "Hey, I'm back in," and then this morning texted us said his wife needed one more day, so he's gonna stay with his wife.
Okay.
and help.
Well, he's where he needs to be for sure. I know it's got to be a really, really difficult time for his wife and for him. And G, our thoughts and prayers are with you, brother. And we'll see you when you get back. Take whatever you need. Busy show. Aditi's coming on.
Yep.
We have a surprise for her. I don't want to say anything else. We have a
Surprise for
surprise
Aditi.
for her.
Correct.
We're going to talk about LeBron in the GOAT conversation. It's one that we haven't really delved too deeply into. I think a lot of folks just automatically assume, well, MJ was 6 for 6, so no. But he's about to become the all-time leading scorer in the sport. So we're going to visit that. And Teresa Walker is the AP beat writer for the Titans. She has been for a long time.
Like 33, going on 34
She's the
years.
Mary Kay of Nashville.
Exactly.
And she's going to be along to give us a little more insight on Jim Schwartz. Everything we've heard about Jim, from players, from media, everything we've heard is this guy is the guy. They got the bullseye with him. Teresa Walker's covered him in 2 different stints. I believe she was there definitely for his 10 years when he was, I think, DC for 8.
8 years.
And a position coach for 2. And then now in this most recent stint where he's kind of a special defensive
Advisor.
coach. Yeah, advisor. It was I think you've explained it best. It was one of those things where they wanted his input. They probably wanted to name him DC, but they didn't want to step on toes. So he was there in an advisory role, but certainly Teresa knows him well. She'll be able to give us insight. That's coming up a little bit later. But that's where we're going to start with the Browns and Kevin Stefanski, because I think the general consensus is with the arc going down each of his 3 years here, and he started as coach of the year, making the playoffs, and then he's down now to 7 wins. I think the question is, and we all know this is a make-it year for him. Like, if things don't go well for Kevin, this is likely his last year with the Browns. What is that bar in your guys' mind? What does he have to achieve? Does he have to get a wild card spot? Does he have to win the division? What is it for you? Is there even a defined achievement he has to hit?
It's so hard to sit here and say you have to hit this because we have no idea our injury is going to play a role. Is anyone going to get hurt of significance? That obviously changes the scope of things. Listen, if he starts 0-5, he's out. Like, can we agree on that? Like,
mid-season, you think they would pull it?
Yeah, like if they get off to a terrible start, if they lose their first 4 or 5 games or something like that, he's out.
Yeah.
Short
Especially
of
what happened this year in Jacksonville, or not Jacksonville, in Carolina.
Yeah.
Typically, it tends to be a white flag move when you fire the coach early in the season.
Yeah.
But they turned things around and damn near got in.
And Matt Rule, being at that game, that first game, I left Carolina shaking my head going, this guy's a terrible NFL coach.
Right.
Like, it was just evident.
As good as he was in the college ranks.
Oh, but some of the game management decisions that they made with penalties and clock, and I just didn't understand. I thought, man, this guy's terrible.
So, I mean, the Browns could conceivably try to salvage the season even.
Well,
at 1-4,
sure,
1-5.
Yeah,
It's a long shot.
I think it would have to be a really, really, really bad start. But 0-5 could get it done. I'm just throwing a number out there.
Right.
But it's sort of like the Supreme Court's definition of porn. You know it when you see it, right? Like, it's hard to sit here and put a number on it of like if he has to be this because it's a sliding scale that changes week to week. Yeah. I don't think anyone there wants obviously to make any sort of drastic changes. They want this to work. They're going to give him every opportunity for it to work. I think ownership's going to give him every. Remember, we say all the time that the Haslams have a quick trigger, and they do. Like, they make emotional, reactionary decisions. I've talked to people who worked in the building who said I had a glowing review, and 2 weeks later I got fired with no explanation. Like, that's just the way it operates there. However, they also gave Hugh Jackson an extension after 1-31. So they try and make it work. Like, they want it to work. The fact that you would extend him after 1-31 is kind of insane, but it also tells you, like, they really don't want to make changes and they want it to work. So they want to give Kevin every opportunity to make it work.
Didn't they at one point have something like 4 head coaches on payroll?
That would
Someone at ESPN told me that with the overlap of all of the different regimes, that they were paying 4 head coaches at the same time.
That might have been before I started really getting invested in the Browns.
I would say this was likely around 14 or 15 when I was told this.
So it was Chud only was there for a year.
He was definitely paid for a while.
So Pettin was somewhere around there. I don't know the chronological order of it all.
I don't even remember.
That's when I was in the NBA world.
But I mean, the person that told me was an NFL reporter for ESPN.
Yeah.
He knew.
Yeah.
He knew the financials of the contracts, the structures. And he told me, he goes, I know this will make you feel real good, but your team's paying 4 head coaches.
That's incredible.
3 of which they fired.
That's incredible.
That's tough look.
Well, it tells you how bad the decision making has been.
Yes.
And also to the quick trigger point.
And that also, if you're talking 14-15, that was early in the Haslam reign.
Right.
Like they would have just gotten, because he's had it for 10 years. Like this is the 10th year. They've owned the team for 10 years. So I think early on they really didn't know what they were doing. They said as much. I've talked about it on the show.
Right.
They said, we didn't know what we were doing. We thought this was easy being in Pittsburgh. So, I think the longer that they've been here, they've tried not to make some of those emotional reactionary decisions.
And they have gotten better in that.
They want it to work. Yeah, they want it to work. Freddie was an absolute disaster. It was evident. I mean, I wrote after 3 games, this guy didn't know what he's doing. I wrote halfway through the year, he's got to be fired 1 year and not. So that was an absolute disaster. They were trusting Dorsey, and he led them astray on that. But for the most part, they've gotten to the point where they don't want to fire these people as quickly as they did earlier.
So you don't think it's necessarily, let's say he does make it through the whole season. Is there a scenario, you mentioned injuries, where they just miss the playoffs again and he still comes back?
Yeah, there has. I mean, like, let's say Watson plays 7 games and has a high ankle sprain, misses 5 weeks, comes back. He's not the same player before.
Right.
If they looked good in those first 6-7 games with him and then they kind of falter without him, and I don't think there's a way they bring Jacoby Brissett back. Whatever their backup quarterback situation is going to be a cheap either rookie contract or Kellen Mond. And with all due respect to Kellen Mond, who I covered at A&M, who I love, he'd be a great interview on the show, by the way. We've got to get. I'll get Kellen Mond on.
All right, great.
He's not winning games in the NFL right now.
No.
Even with the talent around him.
Remember, if you would have asked at the beginning of this season about the situation in San Francisco, you would have said, "Well, gosh, God forbid they ever need to call on Brock Purdy."
That's very fair.
We don't really know. And Kevin's great with quarterbacks.
And I do think, regardless of circumstance, it doesn't matter what the reasoning is. If this team fails to make the playoffs, I get very concerned at that point about Myles Garrett's mindset, Nick Chubb's mindset, these guys that
watching their career tick away.
Yes, watching it just spiral the drain. I mean, we mentioned it yesterday on the show. In my opinion, there's 3 future Hall of Famers on this roster, and Joel Bitonio, the Hayes in the barn at this point, he's already in his 30s. He's toward the end of his career.
Yeah, he's almost rubber stamped.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere. But the other two, Myles and Nick have some productive years ahead of them, and I just wonder where their mindset will be if this team, for whatever reason, the reasons don't matter, if they miss the playoffs again next year, where they would be.
Let's hope that there's more playoff wins in the future for those 3 guys. But if you just take a look at the Joe Thomas, who played in 0 playoff games, if you look at Joe Thomas, Joel Bitonio, Myles Garrett, and Nick Chubb, should all 4 of them play the rest of their careers, here, the 3, get into the Hall of Fame, to have 4 Hall of Famers on your roster in a 15-year span and win 1 playoff game,
it's unacceptable.
That might be the biggest indictment of an organization ever.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And Earl, when he asked this question, he said AFC Championship game was the level that in his mind.
That was where his bar was set. I thought that was high, which is why I didn't ask it that way. No disrespect to you, but the question really was, do they have to make it to the AFC Championship game for Kevin Stefanski to keep his job? I think that's high.
Buffalo, Kansas City, Cincinnati.
Yeah.
That's the point. You have to be better than 2 of those 3 teams.
Win a wild card round, lose in the divisional round like they did in his first year, that's progress.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any way they can fire him if they do that.
I think Jason hit it on the head right there with the AFC Championship game part of this in particular. You have to be better to make the AFC Championship than 2 of either Cincinnati, Buffalo, or Kansas City.
You definitely have to beat one of them. You definitely have to beat one of them.
You have to beat one. We have to be better than 2 to get there.
And you might,
I guess
have to beat 2.
Kansas City could get the bye. Buffalo plays, maybe I guess there's
Yeah,
a
but I'm saying
you have to be better one of them before you get to the championship
and they have to be
game.
better in totality at that point of the season than at least 2 of those 3 teams.
Yeah.
Because we're just penciling in one of those 3. Who knows what happens next year? Like, Mahomes may never be I'm just saying.
Right.
But you have to be, in theory, better than 2 of those 3 teams, and I don't see in one offseason with all the holes currently on this Browns roster, them leapfrogging 2 of those 3 teams in to pencil them in a spot in the AFC Championship game.
And so it would be the equivalent of where the Bills are right now. They didn't make the championship game.
Right.
Was their season a success?
No.
No, because coming in, their goal was Super Bowl.
Yes.
And they had a team that was built to go there. I don't know that realistically, no matter what the Browns do in this offseason, anybody's going to be putting them in the Super Bowl next year. I don't know what moves they can make between now and September that any right-minded journalist, expert, could say, my pick in the AFC is the Browns. There's too big a gap right now.
Right.
Can I try to defend it real quick?
Go ahead, sure.
Please.
I'm surprised that you didn't agree with me, Jay. I thought you would actually be leaning more towards me. So Stefanski has been here 3 years.
Right.
The very first season, the Browns made the playoffs, and they won a playoff game.
Yeah.
So you set the bar for the bare minimum year 1. Since then, the Browns have not even made the playoffs. If you look at the 2023 season, the season after that, I think Nick Chubb will have 1 more year on this contract. Amari will have 1 more year on this contract. Myles is going to be getting older, etc. I'm looking at this situation to where you're paying Deshaun Watson $230 million.
Right.
You have your core players that's on the back end of their current contract deals that you have to get to at least that point to show that everything that Andrew Berry and Jimmy Haslam have invested in, that you can lead them to the promised
Well, let me ask you this, Earl. Are they making that kind of a decision in Buffalo this morning?
No, but
They didn't
Sean
make it.
McDermott have more of a proven track record than Kevin Stefanski does.
That's true.
That's fact.
However, considering where the Browns are coming from, they're coming from a 7-10. And I just think that I'm trying to be realistic. Listen, I'm a demanding fan. Hell, I don't want anything less than a Super Bowl, truth be told. But at the same time, I'm trying to figure out, is this the guy that's the right guy moving forward? And if he can show enough improvement from 7-10 to say 12-5, even 11-6, get in the playoffs, win a game, that's my kind of bare minimum. I think you have to get in the playoffs and beat a team. I do. He did that in year one, coming from nowhere. So I want to see them do that now. And if they don't, it's going to be a disappointment for me. Ultimately, the question Jimmy has to answer is, are we going in the right direction? And clearly, if they turn things around enough where they're +4 in the wins, that's pretty significant.
To your point, Buffalo hasn't made the conference championship game but once.
One time.
With this regime. Which
And they've
kind
got
of,
talent.
Yeah, they've got a ton of talent. They've missed they haven't even made it to the title game,
Right.
AFC title game, the last 2 years. So it's hard to even get to that point. You know, we look at 2020 and go, man, the Browns were just a couple plays away from the AFC title game.
And they were.
And that's true. But that doesn't necessarily guarantee you're going to replicate that success.
I'm glad you said that, because one of the points I wanted to get to in this conversation is that success and failure year to year doesn't slingshot you into the same predicament the next year.
Especially in the NFL.
Especially, probably more so in the NFL
Than any sport. Agreed.
Remember at the beginning of this season where Jacksonville was.
Absolutely.
And I know they won a bad division, but guys, they came within a whisker of beating the team.
That's why I said they were the
favorite.
Browns of 2020.
They were the Browns of 2020. So now that doesn't mean that they're going to duplicate that success next year. And if you for a second ride into 2023 training camp, Jacksonville, and think we're on our high horse,
right.
We got it done in 22, now we take the next step, it doesn't go that way. So, and conversely, the other way, just because you were 7-10, how many times have we seen teams finish 4 or 5 under 500 in the next year? They're a contender.
Well, every year there's a last place team in the NFL that miraculously turns around, makes the playoffs.
Worst to first.
Jacksonville was this year.
Yep.
And in football more than any other sport.
And the Rams were first,
and the first
to
to
worst.
worst, yeah. But in football more than any other sport, players can either fall off a cliff or accelerate faster.
Yeah.
In the NBA, like LeBron may have taken a step back as he gets older. He's still a top 10 player in the league.
Sure.
When guys get older, they don't usually go from very good to unplayable quickly. In the NFL, we see it every year where guys go from, hey, they were a key contributor on this team to now we have a 7th-round rookie who's outperforming him for much cheaper. We're just
It's
going to cut
easier
him.
to age out, for sure.
And also in the NFL, the way the schedule sets up, if you're a last place team, you play a last place schedule the next
Right,
year.
which is going to benefit them greatly.
Absolutely.
I keep looking at their schedule. I've looked at it 3 or 4 times. And
You said
every time,
17-0, right?
Well, believe me, I'm not G. Bush. I'm not drinking that kind of Kool-Aid. But when I look at the schedule, I have a huge smile on my allegedly. I have a huge smile on my face because there are a lot of teams that they will play next year that did not play in the playoffs this year.
Can we make real quick? Can we go back for 1 sec? Can we
Yeah.
make a prediction? What do you think G. Bush's 2023 Brown season prediction is going to be? I'm going
14-3.
I'm going 15-2.
Well, it's going to change 17 times between now and September.
Yeah, because
True.
he is so emotional. He calls himself the Duke of what is he?
The Duke of New
Duke of
Jersey.
Knee-jerk.
Duke of Knee-jerk.
Yeah.
He really does, man. He is an emotional cat. That's how I was when I was like in my 20s and 30s with the Browns.
Yeah.
You know, the cycle of madness. On Sunday you lose. Monday you hate the team. Tuesday you don't want to talk about it. Wednesday you're looking at the opponent. Thursday you're thinking they're not that good. Friday you're like, wow, we had a good week of practice. Saturday like we got this. Sunday you lose. Repeat.
All over again.
Wash, rinse,
Yeah.
repeat.
G brought that up before the season, that cycle, which I guess is more built into Browns fans' DNA than it is
it
anywhere else
really
that
is.
I've been on any sport.
Yeah.
I saw it firsthand this year. It's real. Like that cycle is scary.
Absolutely.
As an outsider now witnessing one Brown season up close, like if you had to write a couple of paragraphs of the Browns football experience, how do you encapsulate what you just watched?
Well, it's part of my stand-up routine, so I don't want to give it all away. But
Okay.
it's joyous pain. It's like when you enjoy inflicting self-pain.
So it's almost like masochism.
Is that what the word is? Yeah, I could have
Yeah.
right. Yeah, masochism. Yeah.
You know what's amazing is
That's well said, actually.
the NBA is such a social media driven league, and there's so much zaniness and craziness that goes on in the NBA than any other sport.
Yeah.
When I came over to the Browns and everyone's like, just wait. I'm like, man, come on. I had LeBron for
can't
4
be-
years.
yeah, right.
There ain't nothing I ain't seen. And I sit here every week and go, oh my God, they were right. Like, this is insane.
Well, I tweeted out after.
What a pitiful place Browns Twitter is. It is. It will. You got to stay away from sharp objects when you go in there.
I tweeted out. I forget what game it was after, but I was like, I'm shocked anyone in Cleveland lives past the age of 50 with how much physical toll and emotional pain the Browns inflicted them week after week. And it was funny. Channel 19 ran it. They had no idea who I was, and I know people over there who, like, just like us, we can't run other stuff. They, like, don't want to run Channel 3 stuff. And it was the lead tweet on their sports show that night, which was awesome because Mikey McNuggets doesn't scream, I work at Channel 3, but haha, got you guys. Sucks to suck, 19. But it, like, I give Browns fans and I'm like a half Browns fan now. Like, I'm from New Jersey.
You get
Giants,
invested when you're here.
Anywhere you work, you want the team you cover to win.
Yes.
It's so much more fun to cover a winning. Jason will attest this anywhere he's been. When I was in Tennessee, I wanted the Titans to win. It was good for business. When I was in Texas, screw the Cowboys. Never wanted you to win. But here, I want the Browns to win. Like, it's good for us if they win,
Sure.
and I feel the pain when they lose because then I have to come on and host a post-game show, and then I have G. Bush going crazy, and I'm like, well, if G. Bush is at that level, I can't be just calm. Like, I got to be invested, so I got invested, and then, the Browns hurt me too. It sucks.
So, G. Bush, get back to the original question. My guess would be he would guess like 10-7.
I'm going to text him right now. I'll see if we get an answer by the end of the show.
All right.
I would say 10-7.
You'll get one by tomorrow.
But
By tomorrow.
By
She's
tomorrow.
so slow on text.
But by September, he'll be 15-2. 16-1, 15-2.
And then by
It's
week
just
3,
gonna ramp up.
And then by week 3, he'll be
2-4,
2-4. I love his volatility. I love his emotion. Because that was me for so long. I'll be honest with you. When I moved to Tampa to work at ABC there, the Browns lost their team.
Just text.
Okay, the Browns had no team.
Yeah.
So I wasn't, I had one rooting interest for the years that the Browns were gone. Whoever the Ravens played.
Yep.
They were my favorite team for 3 years. But when I worked in Tampa, you get to know the guys. They were great guys. They were all-time great defense. Tony Dungy was incredible, treated the media. When he was fired, I've never seen this, and I wonder if you have. The day he was fired, he told the media relations guy for the Bucs, I want all the regulars, the main TV guys, all the beat writers, to come through my office one-on-one. I want to thank them one-on-one.
No.
Now, the man had just been fired. He sat in his office. There was a line. I felt like it was almost like a receiving line at a wake.
Yeah.
It was the most bizarre thing I'd ever
Here's some baked
been
beans.
through.
Sorry for your loss.
And one by one,
hysterical.
each of us came through the office, and we pulled the door shut behind us. And he was like, you've always treated me fairly. I want to thank you for all you've done. I had done some work with his charity foundation, his Family First Foundation, so he and I had a pretty good relationship outside of the football piece. But for a coach to do that, it was unbelievable. So in those years where there was no Browns, I was like, hell, not that I root for anybody as a journalist, but it was fun to watch the team I covered win a Super Bowl while I was covering.
Yeah.
It was a hell of a ride, like you in 16 with the Cavs.
Oh, yeah.
It might be a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
100%.
So, I can't imagine what that would be like, because even though I covered a lot of the Cavs playoff games in that 16 run, I wasn't covering the team. I wasn't, a part of it. I can't even imagine what it would be like for a team to win a championship while I'm here in the media working actively while they won it. It would be mind-blowing.
Flying home from San Francisco, I had this just overwhelming feeling of I just chronicled history.
Right.
For people who have bled and cried with these teams their entire lives.
Yeah.
And I was standing there holding the champagne bottle. It's hard to describe now, but it was just wild.
I know what you're saying, because I was the Cleveland poster child at ESPN. Anytime good or bad something happened for Cleveland, get Jay on.
Yeah,
get him on.
Yeah.
And I had to be the mouthpiece, which, first of all, I never liked to do, because that's, aside from the responsibility, you can't have one person speaking for an entire
the
fan base.
region,
And I kept telling my bosses that. I'm like, look, I can tell you what I'm feeling. I don't know what Fred, who was a steel worker through the 70s and down, I don't know what he's feeling.
Right.
My father's passed. I could tell you maybe what he might be feeling. And that's fine. That's fine. Give us your emotions. And that's a heady thing to do. And I remember before I went on the next morning, they wanted me on from the early morning shows on SportsCenter all the way through the afternoons at 2 when they signed off.
Yeah.
I did my live shots from outside Town Hall
Yeah.
That was kind of our base for the playoffs. So I was there early in the morning, and I just remember it was 5, 6 a.m. when I got there, and my producer and photographer and I were there waiting for town hall folks to get us set up. And it had been 6 hours from the title, and there were cars. Now, this is Ohio City.
Yeah.
Streaming by town hall, beeping their horn, waving flags, holding up headlines to newspapers. I had never seen anything like that before. So, and I was overwhelmed. I'm like, I'm not up to this task.
And real quick, I don't know if I talked about this on the show or not. I may have. My dad was admitted to the hospital. He was in the emergency room.
I think you did
the
tell us
morning
about
I was supposed to fly
and
to
he
San
told you to
Francisco
go.
for Game 7, and he said, go.
I remember
This
that.
is your job. You're a father and a husband. You go. That's what we do. We go to work. You go. And I walked out of his room going, is he going to die while I'm gone?
Wow.
And so I cover the game, and I'm not, I already spilled the tea on Hayden, so I'll spill it on myself. There was a little bathroom in Oracle Arena, across from the Cavs locker room, and I went in there and cried after they won. And it wasn't that I was like a big Cavs fan, because this job beats the Phantom out of you. I don't care who wins.
It does.
loses.
It does.
I root for paychecks and fast games. Sorry, I do.
There's nothing better than a 2-hour, 25-minute football.
Oh, yeah.
Run the ball. When Jay says run the ball 20 times,
Yeah.
I disagree with him every time, except for the fact it gets the game over quicker.
So I go in the bathroom, and I'm just crying because, my dad, and I'm thinking about
Now,
all
was
these
he okay?
people.
Did you know he was okay at that
By
point?
that point, I think he was, because he watched the game from home, actually. So they sent him home. So he watched the game from home. But I thought about, just the region and these people that just lived and died and cried with these sports teams. And I thought about my dad. And I just broke down and started crying.
Yeah.
And I walked out of the bathroom, and Brian Winters was there. He's like, what's the matter with you? I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm fine. Leave me alone. And to this day,
I
Brian
could just
still,
see Wendy going, what is wrong with
Brian
you?
still gives me crap about that. He's like, Lloyd was in the bathroom crying after the Cavs won. I'm like, shut up, man. There's a lot more to it than that.
I'm not afraid to admit that I cried. I didn't. So I was actually given the choice, do you want to be in San Francisco or do you want to be in Cleveland? And I said, I want to be in Cleveland. I want to be there when they win it.
Yeah.
And my bosses laughed. They're like, it's so cute. He thinks they're going to win it. And I'm like, no, we're going to win it.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to be in Cleveland. And the day of the game, I don't know if you remember this, but you were in San Francisco, you probably don't. There was an Indians game. I think they were playing the White Sox, and it went into extra innings, and that was in the middle of their incredible winning streak.
Yes. They won 21 in a row or 22
Yes.
or something
And I'm
like that.
sitting with my old producer from Columbus and my son at the Indians game, and the whole time I've got this, and I when you watch a game with me, you are on edge because I'm Mr. Pessimist. They're going to lose. They're going to lose. They're going to lose.
Yeah.
And the whole game, even when it was in extra innings, I'm like, we got this, and we got tonight.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, we got it.
Yeah.
And when I did a hit earlier from the Sports Center set between Jacobs Field and or
That
Progressive
Gateway Plaza?
and,
Yeah.
and a fan had given me a replica of the Larry O'Brien trophy.
Wow.
And he said, here, take it. So I carried it with me all day. I used it on the air when I made my prediction for Game 7. I held that up.
Yeah.
But I also took it into the baseball game with me. And I'm holding it up, and they win. And I was telling everybody I'm with, I'm like, guys, we got this tonight.
Yep.
It's Father's Day. My dad's got this.
Yep.
We've got this.
Yep.
There are more dads in Cleveland that need this than dads in San Francisco. And when it happened, I cried.
I got to make a top 5 list of places I wish I could have been for specific sports moments. And
wow.
somewhere in Cleveland, when the block happened, the shot or the block,
Oh,
one of those
both
two.
of
but
them were insane.
I would pay. I don't have any money, but I would pay all the money that Jason has in his bank account to go back.
Are you kidding? You were not at his house for the Ohio State Michigan party.
That will change after having a Super Party at Jay's house. That will change after I go to see Jay's White House mansion in Chagrin Falls, which Chagrin Falls,
stop.
very nice town. But I'll put all Jay's money in a time machine project to go back to Map Room or any of the bars down, any of the sports bars downtown to be there for Game 7 when the
block.
Cavs beat the Warriors.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
It would be on my list without doubt.
You weren't a fan, probably weren't. Well, you're an NBA fan.
Oh,
You
I was
may have
watching the
watched-
game.
Did
Yeah,
you
yeah.
see the commercial that they ran right after the Cavs won the championship?
It gave me
I don't-
chills.
I don't remember
Listen,
it.
I
yeah.
did not see it in the moment. I couldn't hear it in the moment. But they had big screens out in that plaza,
Mm-hmm.
and I could see it, but I wasn't focused on it because there was so much else going on.
Yeah.
But was it?
And I had Sports Center hits to think about too. It was, Earl helped me. It was basically like us.
It was us.
It was-
That was exactly what it was.
It was us.
Was it a video of you crying when LeBron left the first time, Earl?
See, we can't.
Was it a Nike commercial?
It was a Nike
I don't
commercial.
know
I've
what
seen
you're
it
talking
after.
It was a
Yes.
Nike commercial, and it was filmed in advance. And boy, I'll tell you, it's a good thing they won because if it had leaked it would have been one of the most epic fails of all time because it was clearly shot as if the Cavs were going to win.
Right.
They probably did one for Golden State too.
I'm
Wasn't
sure
the
they
chat
did.
like together.
I think that was it. Together. And they showed people watching the game in their living rooms. I think it was all done in black and white. I'm getting goosebumps now thinking about it. You can find it on Tagboard. I know we don't have the audio.
I think the together one was when LeBron first returned his first game back.
But wasn't that
Nike
theme
did a
carried
couple of
through
them. Maybe.
even when they won it?
Maybe.
I just remember the overwhelming thought was us, and I couldn't hear it in the moment. I could see the images, and I was emotional. I was with my son. Everybody around us was crying. We were in the middle of thousands of people. They were cheering, going nuts. There were grown men crying.
Yeah.
When I finally did see the commercial the next day, the first time I saw it, they rolled it in on the air. I hadn't seen it yet. And not that they did it to get my reaction, but they did it during my hit. They said, this is the spot that ran. And I'm watching it and I'm weeping because now I can hear it for the first time. And I don't think I've ever been moved by a commercial more than that one.
When's the last time you've seen it?
Probably that day. I don't think I've ever gone back
Anthony's
and looked
working
at
hard
it.
trying to get that
Anthony,
now.
make a note. Let's start tomorrow's show with that commercial.
Can you get
with the audio? No, we'll do it with the audio
We're going to
tomorrow.
get it. Hey, Jay, real quick, though, because Jason and myself, we all kind of share that pain of not having our dads. My dad had his first heart attack the day after Father's Day in 2015.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, so, of course, he passed away in 2018 from a heart attack. 2016, we win the NBA Finals. I drive my truck. I get off right here at East 9th. I'm stuck in traffic.
You came down for it?
I came down.
So you were the one blocking up all the roads.
I leave my truck right there where it's at. I start running towards West 6.
Wow.
I'm just like super excited. I see
They
my
stopped
dad
letting cars in after a while.
I see my dad on West 6 about an hour into it, and we just give each other this long embrace.
Yep.
And, I kind of feel solace that he got to see it before he left this earth. All of us in here, we get to die champions. And I was worried.
Yeah, no, listen, I think I've told this story before. My dad saw the Indians win their last championship when he was 9 years old.
Yeah.
And all I wanted was to share one with him.
Yep.
And his, when he passed, he told me, you'll get to see one. Make sure you're with your son, no matter what's going on. And I've told the story. Corey was in the 2 weeks between the NCAA championships and the Olympic trials, training in New York, and the trials were going to be in California, and he had just flown back from Oregon. And at first I wasn't even going to ask Corey, do you want to come in? But I remember my dad saying, whatever you're doing, it's not as important. And whatever your son, Corey, is doing, it's not as important. Make sure you're together. And in a way, you'll share it with me.
Yeah.
You'll understand what I would have felt as a father. So I on a whim, I just texted him and I'm like, I know this is the busiest week of your life, and I totally understand it, but I want to offer you a plane ticket if you want to come. And he's like, I'll book it now.
Wow.
And he was home within hours, and we were together. And that's what made it so special to me. It was on Father's Day.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was on Father's Day. You couldn't write a better script.
No, I know.
And I had so many fathers coming up to me because I did an essay on the day of the game of what a championship would mean on this Father's Day. And a lot of folks had seen it, and they were stopping by that area. And by that night, a lot of folks had seen the essay on ESPN, and now they were up at the plaza. And when they were running into me, they said, I just want to let you know, I called my father. One guy, I'll never forget this. He said, I hadn't spoken to my father in 10 years.
Wow.
And I saw your piece, and I called my father, and I said, I don't even know why we're not speaking, but I apologize. I love you. And he told me about this incredible conversation he had. And I had so many people tell me that's what sports can do.
Absolutely.
People that don't understand sports, I feel sorry for them. They don't understand the power. People always say their games, they don't mean a lot. Well, they are. And I've preached often, keep them in their proper perspective.
Sure.
But the power of what a championship team can do to a city, to a region, to families, it's unbelievable.
Guys suck at communicating, right?
And we are epically bad.
But I've heard from so many people who say, I can't talk to my dad about anything. I can't relate to my dad. We don't agree on anything. We don't see eye to eye, but we have the Browns, or we have the Cavs, or we have the Guardians. Like, that's our connection. And I just think that's so cool.
Yeah.
And to your point about knowing it was going to happen, I remember I was talking to Kevin Love in the corner of the Cavs locker room when they were down 3-1, when they lost that game. And LeBron was furious about the officiating. He thought Steph should have had a foul early in the game that would have changed the entire complexion of the game. He thought the refs blew one. And I was talking to Kevin, and I was like, it's bleak. 3-1's bleak. He's like, yep.
Yeah.
And I said, and this is like the whole Draymond, could he be suspended, could he not? And I said, if you can get 5 there, there's no way you're going to lose 6 at home. And he goes, no effing way. No way. And I said, and I'll take my chances with that mother bleeper in that corner, and LeBron was over there icing. I said, I'll take my chances with that mother effer over anyone in a Game 7. And Kevin said, 100%. And I said, but you got to get 5. I don't know how you get 5. You have to figure out a way to get Game 5. And we all know Draymond, suspension, all that. They get 5. When Steph threw his mouth guard at the end of 6, and he hit, actually, I don't know if a lot of people know this, when he threw the mouth guard, he hit one of the minority owner's sons, the Cavs. I think it was Nate Forbes' son. He hit with the mouth guard.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Because it was courtside seats. He threw it and hit him.
Yeah, I knew he'd hit somebody.
When he threw his mouth guard, I said, the Cavs are winning this. The Warriors are unraveling. And I texted Dave Griffin and a couple other people in the front office, and I said, be prepared. This is happening. You're winning this series. And they're like, don't even. I'm like,
did the story
I'm
about
telling
the
you
money
right now.
and Ty Lue in the ceiling tiles, is that true?
Oh, yeah, that's 100% true.
What's that
For
story?
those that don't know it, and you may not have heard it, it's one of my all-time favorite stories.
So Ty got this from Doc, and I don't want to mess this up.
When he was in Boston, right?
When Ty and Doc were in Boston together, Doc hid money. They had a bad loss in L.A., and Doc hid money in the ceiling tile.
In the finals.
No. This is during the regular season. Doc hid money in the ceiling at Staples Center and said, like, we're going to be back. Like, we're coming back. We're going to come back and get this. And they did. And they beat the Lakers and they won the championship. So when the Cavs fell down, Ty hid money in Oracle Arena.
When they fell down 3-1.
Well, the 3-1 was at home.
Okay, so
I think it was 5. It must have been Game 5 that he hid money and said, we're coming back for 7. I'll go. I put this in my book, but I don't remember it now.
Game 5 was there.
Game 5 was there.
It was Game 5. It was after the Game 5 loss. He collected was $200.
He took money. Yes, he took money from everyone in the room, and said like $100 or however much it was. And some guys spotted some of the staffers and equipment guys or whatever else. And he put the money in the ceiling and said, find it when we come back. Like, when we come back, you find it. So he stole it from Doc. But that's 100% true. That
I love that story.
He hid money in the ceiling at Oracle Arena knowing that they were coming back.
And didn't LeBron have a funny line about he didn't get his $100 back? Which I thought was hilarious.
And there was a bunch of like little lines like that. And someone else in the front office, I think it was Trent Redden, said, like, when they fell down 3-1 and they had to fly out there. And he said, well, we got to fly home. We might as well make them come with us. Like, when we fly out there, we have to come home one way or the other.
Right.
We might as well make them come with us. And it was all
That's a great line.
all these little things. But yeah, there's so many stories about that in the Game 7. And Ty getting on LeBron at halftime at Game 7 and said, we need more out of you. Like, you're not giving us enough. We need more out of you. And LeBron was like furious with him. And Damon Jones like basically went to LeBron and said, this is what you wanted. Like, you wanted a coach who'd be hard on you. You wanted this moment. Here it is. And LeBron responded. They went to San Quentin and visited the prison while they were out in San Francisco on one of those trips during that finals.
Wow.
The stories are endless. And the trophy, they had the 16 pieces of the trophy that shaped in the Larry O'Brien.
Oh, that was another story.
Yeah, that was another one.
And
I know that
piece
one,
for
yeah.
each win.
One piece for each, and nobody knew about it until it was over because they kicked everyone out. Even like the in-house cameras, they kicked out.
So just the players and the coaching staff.
Yeah, would put those pieces in. And then another one.
What a great idea that is.
Oh, yeah.
It really tells you it's one step at a time.
And then Brock Aller, who doesn't work here anymore, he's with the Knicks now, but Brock was in the Cavs front office. He spent like $2,000 on cigars and something else, goggles and cigars, I think, prior to Game 7. And I remember talking to him after the game. He's like, there's no way I could have expensed that if we lost.
That's on him. That's on him.
So there's just so many little nuggets like that and so many countless.
I don't know how we got down this rabbit hole, but I'm glad we did. I could talk about the Cavs championship forever.
Can we go back one step to the Browns real quick while we're working on Aditi?
Yeah.
That's what I've been texting. Earl said AFC Championship game. They've won one playoff game since 1989, I think. Or
You're
since
talking about the Browns.
1990, the Browns.
Yeah.
They haven't been to an AFC Championship game since 1989. So to put that as the bar, doing something you haven't done in 35 years.
Yeah, that's very tough.
Is the level
I mean,
you
look,
have to reach.
35-year-old
It is what it
emotional
is.
Browns fan.
That is very fair, Earl. Very fair.
If they
but-
make it to the AFC Championship game, he's getting a 5-year extension.
and a statue.
I just think that that is such a leap from where we sit today.
Yeah.
I'm emotional, Jay. I'm hurt. I'm pissed off.
I'm sorry, dog. I am. I'm sorry. Because you and I normally see eye to eye on these things. But when you consider what's in this division right now and where we are today, if you tell me 365 days from now we would be getting ready to play in the AFC Championship game, my first reaction will be lock them up. Lock them up. Because that's a hell of a job.
All right, so let me ask you all this. Is it make the playoffs plus 1 win, or is it make the playoffs plus 2 wins?
I think it's make the playoffs.
Make the playoffs
Just
and
make
win a
the
game.
playoffs.
That rubber stamps it. I have to think long and hard about the situation if they make the playoffs and lose a game.
Yeah.
What happened? Were there injuries?
Right.
Was the game close?
Was it the Chiefs?
What was it the Chiefs or the Bengals or the Bills? I mean, everything will weigh into it, and I'm sure that, when the Haslams, when it comes time for them to make a decision, I hope they weigh all the pieces of information they have.
You know what struck me looking at the Browns' record was, and we've talked about this before. We talked about this endless times. They were 7-10, fall on the onside kick, don't throw the pick against the Chargers. Everyone in the division has a winning record.
Yeah.
Like just how remarkable that is. That
would give the division 40 wins.
Yeah.
Which is 10 wins per team.
Per team.
You're talking about, I know everybody wants to point to the NFC East, but for crying out loud, if you have 4 teams in your division all win 10
with winning
games,
records.
Did they have 39?
they have 38.
38. So then the
And those
Bengals,
two
the
wins-
Bengals didn't play a game too.
Right.
And by the way, the Browns are 3-3 in the division. We've talked about that before. They haven't won 4 games in the division since they came back. That would have been, if they beat the Steelers the last week of the season, that would have been the first time they had 4 division wins since they returned.
Were they 3-3 in
99.
2020?
They've been
When they made the
3-3.
playoffs?
They've been 3-3 division every year under Kevin, I believe. I looked this up earlier. I'm trying to remember.
Which,
think
you know what, is a
20
hell of an accomplishment.
It really is in this division.
In this division with this competition, and I know all divisional games are closely contested, but if you're beating Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Cincinnati,
you're basically splitting with all 3 teams.
why can't you do that and better against the rest of the league?
And that's what's so frustrating about last year. When you look at the NFC South, they barely beat Carolina. They lost to Atlanta.
They
had
barely beat Tampa Bay, who was terrible
That
regardless,
was a
and they lost to the
remarkable-
Saints in
yeah.
a game they should have won.
Yeah, so they're 2-2
and they went
against
0-4 against the East, which was good but not great as it turned out.
Right.
So
Let's bring in Aditi now. We've got the technical glitch fixed. Aditi, we're kind of trying to figure out. This is always dangerous to do, but we have 2 hours to kill every day, so we have to do something. We're trying to decide what rubber stamps Kevin to come back after next season. What in your mind does this team have to accomplish to make sure that he's back?
I mean, I think it's a playoff team. I think it needs to make the playoffs. But I also think that you look at Zach Taylor, everybody wanted to run him out of town. And there is something to be said for patience. It's hard because it's not a one-size-fits-all, right? It's easy to sit here today on January, whatever it is, 24th, and say, okay, well, Kevin Stefanski should be able to lead this team into the playoffs next year. But what happens if Deshaun Watson gets hurt? What if Myles Garrett gets hurt? What if, there are so many vagaries in what can happen in an NFL season that it's really hard to just say it's something as simple as a one-size-fits-all rubber stamp.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to hedge. I'm just saying let's be realistic.
No, I mean, you have every right to hedge.
We made that exact point.
That's exactly what we said. Jason was like, well, look, what if someone gets hurt? McNugget said, what about Watson? What if he plays half the season and misses? So I know that in general, you'd like to think that this team is a playoff team. But to your point, not only were fans in Cincinnati over the last couple of years at certain points pointing to Taylor, wondering if he's the guy, Tomlin has had stretches in Pittsburgh where there were a good number of fans that wanted him run out. And the same can be said for John Harbaugh in Baltimore.
Yeah, Jay, I mean, okay, first of all, John Harbaugh was almost essentially fired the year that put Lamar Jackson in. Steve Bisciotti made no bones about the end of the previous year saying, well, this is basically it. And then the Ravens were sitting at 4-7. Joe Flacco's back, can't go. He puts in Lamar Jackson, and all of a sudden the man is coach of the year. So there's that. even last year when Zach Taylor takes the Bengals to the Super Bowl, there's all sorts of chatter about what kind of situational football coaching he is doing. So I think there's always questions about that. But Jason was just talking about the Cavs. And this is where sports writers sometimes see something from 20,000 feet that people that are inside the room never really consider. And that is the emotion, the ebb and the flow, the intangible to a team and what they're able to do. And what I mean by that is a week ago, I was in Buffalo watching the Bills against the Miami Dolphins. And I'm telling you, standing on that sideline, even though I felt the Bills would pull out that game, I told multiple people they're losing next week. And it had nothing to do with the way they're playing defense. It had nothing to do with whether they could or couldn't run the football. There's just a tightness there. There was just an exhaustion, an emotional, I don't know. It was something that probably a lot of people looking at the X's and O's aren't putting their finger on. But we're trained to sit here and look at pieces of the puzzle that are, quite frankly, for lack of a better word, the intangible. So when you look at the Browns next year, are they fighting? Are they believing? Are they cohesive? Are they in every single game? Are they trying to gut it out at the end, even when they're down 14 points with 2 minutes left? Things like that. I think that in some way is almost more important than anything else if there are these other factors like major injuries or things not necessarily falling their way. Is that team playing the way you want that team to play? And so when you bring up Mike Tomlin and the record and this, that, or the other, the thing with Mike Tomlin is that his team is always fighting. His team is always in the conversation. And sure, people in Pittsburgh should be a little bit tired of that because their standard is so high that what good is it to be in the conversation? But that's the mark of a coach who is reaching his players. That's the mark of a coach who's motivating his players and who's getting the most out of his players. So you want to be able to say that about Kevin Stefanski more than you want to say, okay, this benchmark of you have to hit 12 wins.
Here's where I get concerned. I agree with everything you just said. Here's where I get concerned. It doesn't
Wow,
matter.
that rarely happens.
Oh, that always happens. But it doesn't. To me, it doesn't matter the reasoning. If Deshaun, God forbid, blows out a knee and misses the year, if somebody has a devastating, the reasonings don't matter. If they miss the playoffs again, I'm concerned about where that puts Myles Garrett and Nick Chubb mentally and their desire to want to stay here. I just feel like this thing's teetering with some of their biggest names, and this could go to a really bad place. If for whatever reason, the reasons don't matter. If this team fails to make the playoffs next year and fails to reach expectations, it's not even about the coach at that point. It's about the personnel. Do the players even want to still be here?
Okay, but I would argue back. Well, then that just means they need to take more ownership. And I've heard that about, we've talked about both of these players. Both of these guys are generally quiet, lead by example people. Myles Garrett has been very honest this year that he felt there was more of an onus on him with Baker Mayfield and Jarvis Landry out. He made more of an effort to be around guys, to play, I can't remember that 4-square, 2-square game, to try to be more of a vocal leader. Even Nick Chubb. I mean, it was Deshaun Watson telling me that Chubb is talking a little bit more in the huddle. Joel Bitonio said Chubb is talking more. You have to be the change you want to see to some degree as well. And it's not enough to me if you are a superstar player, if you are one of the elite players in the National Football League, I don't want to sit here and say, well, you know, I give up on this coaching staff or I give up on this group. You've got ownership too. And the best teams are really, truly player-led. So, Jason, there is a point there, sure, and you don't want to lose those players. But by the same token, well, you have power here too. And there are certain things that are in your control. And what is stopping you from going and sitting in Kevin Stefanski's office, closing the door and saying, I think we need X, Y, and Z? He's a guy who'll listen. Yeah. He's a guy who wants to have that conversation.
Aditi, you were the Browns team photographer for a day this offseason, so I'm going to put you in their GM chair now for a day. You have one big free agency splash to make. Are you making it a defensive tackle, linebacker, or wide receiver?
Sorry, that's my little Browns fan.
Don't ever apologize for that.
Should we ask her? Yeah.
I'd love to ask her.
What
Yeah,
would
please.
you rather see, Kaya? You know what? Here's the thing. I think that the most ready position coming out of college is wide receiver. So I think it is easiest, and we've heard Andrew Berry talk about this, right? He's talked about the proliferation of 7-on-7 leagues, the pro-style offenses, what wide receivers are doing. You obviously choose the best available player in the draft, but I think that you are more likely to hit on an impactful wide receiver in the draft than you are perhaps to hit on an impactful player in those other two positions. I think defensive tackle. So everybody needs a really smart middle linebacker. Everybody needs somebody in the middle. That's where your defense goes, et cetera, et cetera. But you look at the division that the Browns are playing in. You look at how vital and important it is to stop the run and set the tone.
Yep.
I don't think you ignore the position of defensive tackle. I really just think that that's so desperate. And that was also, quite frankly, the biggest hole this year. It was an area where, and if you believe in your young talent, if you believe in your Perion Winfreys and et cetera, you still need that seasoned older guy in there to lead the way, to show how to be a professional, to teach. And this is another one of those conversations that we just had. Didn't we just talk about this? That sometimes on your 53, you need a personality. That in a locker room, that locker room is an ecosystem. And that it's maybe not the fastest guy, the toughest guy, the strongest guy. It might be that 10-year vet who really helps build that ecosystem. And so I like the idea of getting a defensive tackle in free agency. Don't ask me who to go after because I have no idea right now.
Yeah, I think, though, that, Aditi, that's the $64,000 offseason question for this team because, to your point, and we've seen this it's not that the Browns haven't drafted interior defensive linemen. It's the ones that they've drafted haven't made the impact that they were hoping they would make.
Right.
Sometimes you're just better off going out and buying a
known commodity.
Buying a known commodity. And even if you have to pay for it, and you will, I think that's what they're doing right now over in Berea. They're scouring the free agent wire. They're looking at who is available at that position because that is where they have to make the biggest splash. And I don't even think it's a question. I know wide receiver is an area of need, and they have other areas of need, but to me, there are red lights flashing all over the interior of that defensive line, and those have to be addressed.
And to your point, that is sometimes a position that takes a little seasoning. So why not go and get a guy who's had demonstrated success already? You know, I was watching the Eagles this weekend, and they have a guy in the middle, Javon Hargrave. He was in Pittsburgh. He was not the same player in Pittsburgh. He was a young player that I thought had potential and talent, but Pittsburgh basically gave up on him, and he's become a star in Philadelphia. A star to some degree. But, you know, I mean, I think that that's where you go and that's where you look. And maybe next week I'll have a list for you. Sorry. I wasn't prepared for that one right there.
That's your homework for next Tuesday. Aditi, we do have a surprise for you today, though.
Oh, boy.
Do you remember, I would say it was the day Jay got hit by the car. Jay, do you know how long ago that was?
Over a month.
Over a month. So over a month ago, the day Jay got hit by a car, we had our artist in, Robert Conley, who painted the cool pictures of us that are sitting right there right now, who we're still working. By the way, Robert, Herbie's going to hang up things on the wall so we can hang these up. But someone had sent us a message saying, well, Aditi wasn't in that. We need to get a picture of Aditi. So Aditi, this is from Eric Scheffler. I'll turn it around in a sec. He's from North Carolina. He's a daily watcher. He went to Glen Oak High School. He's originally from Canton. And he wanted our contributors to all have part of the love. So, Aditi, this is officially Steve.
Wow.
This is
wow.
This is from Eric Scheffler, rockstarstudio.org. That's Aditi in the middle.
I think it's spot on. The Aditi is spot on.
Aditi
Very
spot on.
good.
Do I have dark circles under my eyes? Do I look tired?
This is, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just the messenger. But that is
that's beautiful.
That is Aditi from Eric Scheffler.
Cow.
So
It
thank
really
you, Eric.
is a good picture.
It's Tim. Which side is this? The
He
brown
makes
side.
me look better than I look in real life.
We got
You
Tim
send me
Couch.
his email address so I can thank him.
I will absolutely send you his contact, but that's Tim, DeQuell, Leroy, Aditi, obviously, Maurice, and then Robert Smith. So these are all the UCSS contributors. And shout out
Love
Eric.
how I'm above everybody, right?
I know.
Like I'm
Yeah.
You're the
conscious.
you're the
Is that
center.
what I am, or I'm the angel.
You're the
I should have
center of
sent
all
him a
the
picture of
attention.
me in a uniform, though. I've got uniforms too.
I think that's great.
I've never looked better than with this
That's
picture in
awesome.
front of my face.
You look older holding that picture up, Mike.
I finally
Guys,
might not get carded.
thank you.
So,
Yeah.
Aditi, we're going to hang
That's
this up.
so
This is going to
cool.
go in the UCSS offices upstairs. Next time you come in, we'll get you maybe to sign
Can't
this
wait.
or something. But, yeah, shout out to all our contributors.
Love
shout out
it.
to Eric for this wonderful piece of art.
Eric, you are amazing. What talent.
Yeah, it is really.
I'm so impressed.
I'm always.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed by people that can put a pen to canvas or a paintbrush to canvas and depict something.
My birds are M's and my people are sticks. I do not have that.
Everything I draw
ability.
looks like a muffin. Doesn't matter what it's supposed to be. It comes out looking like a muffin. So,
Well, Aditi does
So
not
cool.
look like a muffin. She looks beautiful in that picture, no matter what you think.
All right,
I
on
think
that note, I think I'll leave.
thanks, Aditi.
it's-
Bye,
Aditi,
guys.
thank you.
Thanks
We'll
for
see you
having
next
me.
week.
Talk to you next week.
Have a
That
good
is
one.
that real. I hadn't seen that until you just showed it
Yeah.
on the air. That's really well done.
It is.
He's tremendous.
Eric Scheffler, rockstarstudios.org. Shout
All
out
right,
for watching.
there you go.
There you go.
You want to do some reset info here, top of the hour, some membership pushes?
I
What
think
are
we
doing?
have Teresa Walker ready, don't we, Earl?
We definitely have Teresa Walker ready.
All right.
How long could it take you, Mike? 30 seconds? 40 seconds?
All right, Teresa, give us 30 seconds on the clock. You can become a UCSS member for $199. That gets you in the starters tier. That's all the loyalty badges, custom emojis, everything else. For $4.99 a month, you get the coaches tier. That's loyalty badges, custom emojis, overtime content, discount merch codes, plus tomorrow's overtime. I promise you is going to be the funniest thing you've ever seen in your entire life. I can't tell you anything more than that. It's going to be amazing. That was in 17 seconds. Teresa Walker from the AP. Shout out Nikki Latarulo for hooking us up with you, Teresa. How you doing today?
I am doing good and happy to join you guys. I know that things went a little, we were going to try to do this last week, but sometimes things work out for the best. It was nice to see Aditi there at the end, so love her. So obviously you have great taste in guests.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we love Aditi, and we're excited about having you on. First of all, I know you know Mary Kay Cabot. You have been referred to as the Mary Kay of Nashville. Is that a fair comparison? Like Mary Kay has everything on lockdown here in Cleveland.
Well, I'm state sports editor for AP here in Nashville, and Mike Vrabel has given me the first question, since his first season.
Wow.
In fact, Teron Davenport of ESPN tried to, when they introduced the new GM, Rand Carthon, on Friday, Teron tried to go in with a quick question, and Mike kind of stopped and, wait a minute, Teresa.
I love it.
Even on the red carpet at the NFL Honor Show last year in LA, he stopped and a TV camera was set up beside me and they started to ask something. He goes, no. Back home, Teresa gets the first question. So
I love it.
I'll say yes.
I've known Mike for a long time. That is a very Mike Vrabel thing to do. That's one of the reasons we love him so much. So, Teresa, obviously we're having you on because we want to get your insight on our new offensive coordinator. We know that
Defensive.
you've worked closely with Jim. What'd I say?
Offensive.
Defensive
he's calling the
coordinator,
offense,
Jim
we got some
Schwartz.
issues here, but-
Yeah, I have offensive. I have dreams of our offense exploding next year, but I also have dreams of our defense taking a huge step forward because they were not good last year. And Schwartz obviously is a guy that you know well. You've covered him during two different stints in Nashville. What can you tell us about him both as a coach and as a person?
Well, as a person, he's very detailed. I mean, when the Titans made their run to the '99 Super Bowl, he was a position coach at the time, and they just credited him for being incredibly prepared and having them ready to play. And then he was defensive coordinator, and they put together some really great defenses under Jim Schwartz, and they were so good. That's what got him his stint as a head coach in the NFL. And it was a little weird the last 2 years. We did not get a chance to talk to Jim. I mean, because of his senior defensive assistant title, we were told that league rules allowed them to not let him talk to us. So it was more like, hi, Jim. So, but having covered him for so long, it was easy to see his fingerprints on this defense. Shane Bowen, was a first-time defensive coordinator, and the year before Jim arrived, they were dead last in the NFL on third down conversions. I mean, an NFL team hadn't been so bad in decades, and they were giving up over 51% on third down conversions. He comes in, and you could see a more aggressive style. Now a lot of times, teams love to be able to get pressure with just their front four. When you see them start mixing in some of those blitzes and things like that, sending in a cornerback or, sending somebody else to, to add an extra guy. That felt like the Jim Schwartz effect. He can be very aggressive. His defenses are known for getting after the quarterback. He did that when he was in Philly. He's done that. He did that here in Tennessee, and their sack numbers went up. The only reason that they didn't do better this year, well, the pass rusher, Harold Landry, before the season started, to a torn ACL. Bud Dupree, the guy who was their big free agent signee 2 off seasons ago, he was limited by injury again this season. So, but you could see that aggressive philosophy. So, I'm thinking Myles Garrett should be very happy to have Jim Schwartz as the new DC there, because he's gonna give him help to get better ways and have more chances to get to the quarterback.
It's interesting you say that, because I think that's exactly why Jim's here. That's why he got the job over Brian Flores and everyone else, was Myles Garrett and using him in this defense. But I wanted to ask you something a little bit different than that. I assume that they hid him from you guys because of the optics of the whole thing. But if everyone loves him and he is such highly regarded, why not just hire him as a defensive coordinator?
Well, right. I mean, because they hired Jim after, Shane Bowen kind of twisted in the wind for a year. He was the outside linebackers coach, yet he was talking to us kind of as defensive coordinator the year before they brought in Jim. Then Mike Vrabel gave him the official title as defensive coordinator, young defensive coordinator, first-time DC. And then they hired Jim Schwartz and announced him as that senior assistant defensive coach, so kind of like the, shadow there in the background, but Jim, when he talked last week, he was kind of there to give advice, feedback, bounce around from position group to position group, and just, kind of be that eye in the sky, so to speak, that voice of experience, to help Shane, learn on the job, grow in his position, and and better find his footing, I guess, while being that kind of sage voice of experience. So it was a very unusual situation, and honestly, it feels like that's why they didn't let Jim talk, because they were trying to make sure that Shane kind of grew into that position, and this defense, they were second best year in franchise history against the run. Of course, now they were last in the NFL against the pass because they were having trouble generating the pass rush, like I mentioned, because of the injuries. And Jeffrey Simmons, he told reporters after the loss in Jacksonville, he was shooting up an ankle every week just to be able to play to finish the season, and he's a 2-time Pro Bowler. So, but I think that was more the reason. I mean, absolutely, he could have been their defensive coordinator, but Mike Vrabel was trying to, grow a younger coach that he had worked with in Houston in Shane Bowen.
Teresa, when you look at Myles Garrett and what Jim Schwartz has done to generate the most pressure from the defensive line, defensive tackles have been a giant part of his scheme. You look at Albert Haynesworth, Marcel Darius, Fletcher Cox, Jeffrey Simmons. They've all had tremendous success under him. The Browns this past season at defensive tackle was arguably their weakest position, the one they need to address the most this offseason. In your opinion, does Schwartz have the ability to up any defensive tackle to play at a much higher rate, or is that a position they need to get much better talent at to maximize what Schwartz wants to do defensively?
Better talent using a top draft pick certainly would help. But look at Tier Tart. He was an undrafted player for the Titans, and he had an incredible season this year for them. And, has been very productive despite being a guy who nobody took in the draft. So he can work with talent and bring talent out of guys who aren't high draft picks. And so, but if you give him somebody who is a top draft pick, like you mentioned, Albert Haynesworth and Jeffrey Simmons, both first-round picks, he can make them from something really good into something great.
Teresa, do you think there might be a player or two or maybe three on the defensive side of the ball that have the ability to move that might want to follow him here to Cleveland? Because there are some spots, obviously, on that defensive line that need filled.
Well, that's the thing. The Titans are over the salary cap right now, and they've got to clear some space, right? Without a doubt. And Bud Dupree, an outside linebacker, a guy who, the last 2 years, because they signed him coming off a torn ACL that he tore in December, and they signed him in March. One of the reasons the last GM was fired in December is, you can't gamble so much on guys that are coming off of injuries. Well, if he has his whole offseason to get healthy, he might be a cap cut for the Titans that somebody might, could look at. They're not letting Jeffrey Simmons go. I mean, after the A.J. Brown debacle and trading him away, I think we would all be stunned in Nashville to see them not find a way to lock up Jeffrey Simmons at some point this year. But a Naquan Jones is a undrafted guy. Daquan Jones, I'm not sure of his status, but he's an interior guy who went from Nashville to Buffalo and has had some good success there. So here's the thing: there's a lot. He's coached a lot of linemen, and guess what? They know what they're going to get when they're working with Jim Schwartz.
What do they get? We've heard he's kind of no nonsense, very detail oriented. We've heard that from a lot of different players, coaches, media members that we had on the show in telling us about that, about his style. But were you even able to see him in the building and around the team much if they were kind of trying to keep him out of the way, particularly of cameras?
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those fun things. It's like, okay, you got to stay in this hallway for 3 more minutes before you can go out. And then Jim would usually be one of the last people to go out. So I did get to say, we got to say hi to him. I mean, shoot, I've covered him, since the 90s. So, and dealt with him and had some good, conversations. At one point, he took issue with me pointing out that, pointing out that his defense was struggling. He's like, listen, we're struggling in this specific category. We're not, it's not like we're bad across the board. And so, he helped teach me. It's like, be specific in what I'm pointing out. They were, and then I started looking at the overall stats, and it's like, he had a great point. They were good in some areas. It's just that there was one area where they were really bad that one year. And he brings that, like I said, he was rotating to the different position groups because, he's been around defenses for so much of his career and linebackers at one point. I mean, he started his career off in Cleveland under Belichick way back in the day. Right. So, he's got experience. So he knows how to go around. And I'll say this, over these last 2 years, while, he didn't talk, officially to us, he was talking to the different groups and the different positions and just providing that kind of extra eye in the sky. Sometimes when you're right up against something, it can be tough to, see that, the forest for the tree. And I think that was what he brought to them specifically over the last couple of years.
So getting back to what you said earlier, I agree with it, the Myles Garrett point. How can he get the most out of Myles? I think all of us who watch Myles game in and game out think that there's another level there. And he's obviously a wonderful player, but there's more in there that the Browns haven't gotten out of him yet. How does Jim get that out of him?
By giving him help on the rest of the line and finding guys, putting them in position so that they're getting some pressures. And occasionally, I mean, let's face it, how many times has Garrett found himself double teamed there, right? So, when you're able to, and that'll be, who they bring in to help at defensive tackle, but he'll be able to find some ways, scheme up some ways to find, to get him some more one-on-ones and get him into some space to go after the quarterback. And I think that's the area that will help him. He's going to have some more room to operate. And when you've got that, when you're Myles Garrett, it's going to help.
Does he get creative in how he lines guys up? Because one of the things that kind of annoyed us this year was it didn't look like they mixed. Every once in a while, they'd line up Myles and Jadeveon Clowney next to each other. But for the most part, you knew exactly where Myles was going to be, it felt like, in all the formations. Does Jim mix things up a little bit more, or is it pretty traditional and standard?
There have been times where he keeps them in spots, but yes, there's been times where he'll flip on the other sides. I mean, Jeffrey Simmons is a guy that, listed originally as defensive tackle, but, he would move out to end on occasion and flip around. And they definitely, the last couple of years, at least a year ago when Harold Landry was healthy, they would flip him and Bud Dupree on occasion. And so, when you move guys around, I mean, hey, let's face it, it helps to keep people off guard. And when you're on the clock and you're trying to get lined up and get the ball snapped, and you have to suddenly look up and you say, wait a minute, he's not where he usually is, that helps a defense. So, and yeah, Jim has done that. I mean, Albert Haynesworth would, move around on occasion. And, it definitely helps when you can move a top guy a little bit just to make them think, because when you get somebody thinking, that's when you can catch them off guard.
Teresa, this is a little off topic with Jim Schwartz, but let's say hypothetically Ohio State offered Mike Vrabel the head coaching job. Is there any chance you could see him taking that?
I'm going to say no for this reason. He's been a pro guy his entire career. And guys, I've dealt with this question back when Jeff Fisher was, anytime the Southern Cal job would come up, his alma mater, people would say, Jeff Fisher, he's going to go back to his alma mater. When Mike Munchak for 3 years was the coach here and Penn State, had an opening, it's like, Mike Munchak is going to go back to Ohio State. Mike Vrabel is a guy that while, he gets along, his son, one of his young sons has hung around the team most of this year. He's a baseball player and goes to a community college, just outside of Nashville. But he has literally been a pro guy from the time he was drafted by the Steelers. He spent that very brief time, getting into coaching at Ohio State. But once he got his feet wet on the coaching side, he went to the NFL, and he's been in the NFL ever since. And guys, I'll just say this. The Titans ownership led by Amy Adams-Strunk, I don't think they're going to, it's tougher to get out of NFL contracts, right? Unless you're Urban Meyer. And they want to show you the door. But the Titans know what they've got in Mike Vrabel. They're not letting him go. And he just seems like the kind of fit that this is where he works best. He's a guy that, he treats these guys like men and holds them accountable like men. It's different when you suddenly, to go back to college, now have to deal with the transfer portal where you're literally recruiting guys every day. I just don't see that being something Mike Vrabel wants to deal with.
Teresa, thank you very much. Great information. We appreciate it. Thanks for coming on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.
Thanks, Teresa.
My pleasure, and happy to join you all.
Absolutely. Really good insight. And you know what? The best point that she made on Mike was the last point, because I've known Mike for 30 years. He is a man's man. Mm-hmm. He suffers no fools.
College is not the place for him. Say no more. That's it.
As much as I used to think that Mike would end his career in Columbus as coach of the Buckeyes, that last point that she made, I think, is the best point in the conversation. You literally aren't just recruiting these kids. It used to be recruit them, get them in the door, and then break them down like Marines and build them up to what you want to be. Now you do that, and I'm hitting the transfer portal.
They'll leave.
It's like coaching a bunch of kids because they are
re-recruit your own recruits every year.
Yeah.
Every single year. You're re-recruiting the same kids every year.
It is making the job of being a college football coach. It was already 365 more than the NFL. Because of the recruiting cycle, it's even worse now.
I think that's what's going to drive Jim Harbaugh
back
out of Michigan.
It almost did this year. I heard from somebody who covers the league that it wasn't really so much his decision to stay at Michigan, is that although there was some interest, it wasn't like we got to have Jim Harbaugh, here's the bank.
If he has one more good year at Michigan, I think that opportunity will be there next year for some team to literally open up the Brinks truck for him. But Sean Payton's the hottest coach in the market. Like, no matter how you slice and dice it, it was Payton 1, and then everyone else 2, 3, 4, 5. And I would put DeMeco Ryan, the defensive coordinator in San Francisco, above John Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh.
There's baggage that goes along with Jim that everybody that's in this business kind of understands. I remember folks in Stanford, when he took the job to go back to college to go to Michigan, I had spoken to some folks in athletics at Stanford and said he'll wear out his welcome in a handful of years.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
Yeah.
He's lasted longer than I think most expected him to last, but it took him longer to get back into the discussion as being relevant. They're clearly there now.
Well, he took a pay cut after the COVID year. He took a significant pay cut after the COVID year.
I didn't know that. Was that voluntary or?
They restructured his. I don't remember the exact details, but he legitimately took a.
That's interesting.
I'll look up by the end of the show. I'll find the number. He took a big pay cut
to
stay at Michigan after the COVID year.
But I do think her point on Mike is a good one. As much as I used to think he's going to go back to Columbus because he loves Ohio State, He loved coaching there as an assistant under Urban, even though they didn't always see eye to eye. I think that's where his heart is. But, man, I would not want that job for the paycheck that goes with it when it comes down to the fact that you literally are convincing these kids, no, this is the right place for you.
I do think that there will be some sort of structure or parameters. We've said it multiple times on the
portal?
show.
It's coming, yeah.
This is wild, wild west
It's
right
nuts.
now. And I do
It's
think
nuts.
that over time something will evolve because it's going to drive all the coaches out. And Bull would say, screw them, who cares?
Yeah.
But you still need to have
Yeah.
your coach in place. So I do think that there'll be some sort of structure around NIL, around the transfer portal, something. Because right now, if there's no way I would want to deal with this as a college football head coach.
Well, the power shift has happened. It used to be the coaches had it all.
Yep.
And that is not the case
Now the
anymore.
players
These
have it
players
all.
are making money.
Yep.
And they wield
Players have all the leverage.
real power
Yep.
now when it comes to I just might enter the portal.
And I do think they should have some leverage and some say in it, but I just think it's gone from here to here. There's got to be some sort
Is
of
a
balance.
union the right answer?
I hadn't really thought of that.
This is an hour and a half. This is a whole show discussion.
No,
by
I know
itself.
it is,
It's impossible
but
to.
Something's got to change. Something's got to happen. And I agree with you. The players should have a right to benefit financially from their skill set at 18 years old. Everybody else in the United States can.
Absolutely.
So the thought that they can't is absurd. But how we legislate it and how we bring it all together, that's what's going to be interesting to watch. Top 5 time. Top
So, Jay,
5 time.
Disclosure.
Full.
I need you to be Bull today. You know how Bull goes bad job out of you guys when he doesn't like the top 5?
Yeah.
This is my first ever top 5. So I need
Not
you
my
to judge
nature.
me
It's not
accordingly.
my nature.
Oh, no,
to be
you get no
critical
free
of you.
passes, Earl. This is, if it sucks, we're gonna tell you it sucks.
They will. I probably won't.
So my first ever top 5 is my favorite players to wear number 24. Steve, let's go with number 5.
Wait, that seems random. Is your favorite player of all time a number 24?
My favorite player of all time is not a 24, but
So-
it's the 24th.
Oh, 24th day of the month.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's a cool topic.
let's
I
just
like
do it.
that.
Is
We
Jeff-
could do
is
that
Jeff Gordon-
every day of the month.
Is Jeff Gordon a player? He's
Yes,
a,
he's an athlete.
driver.
Don't start.
No, I'm not
Please
saying he's
don't
not an
start.
athlete.
Now, wait a minute. First of all, let's talk about your love of NASCAR.
Yeah, Earl does
which
love NASCAR.
Bull, I thought was a little profiling, but Bull said, you're a NASCAR fan?
My family was pissed.
They should be. Brad Doherty's a great friend of mine. Brad Doherty knows more about NASCAR than any white guy I know.
Yeah. Larry Nance.
Like, why's it got to be like that, Bull?
My family hit me up like, what does he mean by that? I said, listen, Bull got a big heart. I can back him up on this one, but
Yeah.
they were hot, man.
I can
I've
imagine.
been watching NASCAR since I was 11 years old.
You love it. And so Jeff Gordon, obviously a number 24, and that's a good one. He's one of the GOATs of his
Listen,
sport.
he's one of the best racers, and I actually do know Jeff Gordon is number 24. That's a NASCAR
I had no
number I
idea
would have
he was
known.
number
Jimmy
24.
Johnson's 48.
Very
That's
good.
probably Kyle Busch 18, I think. I did cover NASCAR in Tennessee for a little bit.
What
but
number is Dale Earnhardt Jr.?
Three.
three,
Well,
right? Three.
Right?
His dad
No,
was
that's
3.
senior.
His,
That's-
his dad was 3. He was 8.
88. No, 88.
88.
88.
But he
Jay,
was
my
8.
guy. That's why
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
my guy.
Okay.
But my only issue with this, Earl, is these are players. Is Jeff Gordon considered? Are we considering Jeff Gordon a player as opposed to an athlete?
I used to say no, but I did the NASCAR immersion at the Charlotte Motor Speedway once, and I drove a car 170 miles an hour.
G-forces is real.
No, they're
And
athletes.
they're-
They are absolutely athletes.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
and
they're
they're
not
playing
athletes.
a sport, a
Yeah.
game.
Okay.
So
okay.
yeah, they're players.
I'll give it to Earl. I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
I'll give it to
McNuggets, did you really think I was going to miss an opportunity to plug NASCAR?
you. No, I think players. NASCAR is a sport, and I respect what NASCAR is.
That's
as an
tough work,
entity.
man. I'm telling you, that is to do that for the mental focus that you need for 3.5 hours on a super speedway. Because one wrong move in football, and you get a yellow flag thrown on you. One wrong move on the NASCAR track, and you
done.
could be dead.
Earl, there's a lot of good 24s, so these next 4 better be good. Because there's a lot of.
All right, number 4.
Yeah,
These
Let's
are
take
your
it.
favorite 24s,
Yeah.
not
These
the
is my
greatest
favorite.
24s
Now
of all
keep
time.
in mind, I was born in 1987.
I know.
So, give me a
So,
break.
so Willie Mays probably won't be on your list.
Probably not.
Okay.
There better be a baseball player on here, though.
Nick Chubb.
Nick Chubb. All
It's a
right.
good one.
It's got to be there.
For me, he's the best running back in Browns history I've ever seen. I was not alive when Jim Brown was playing running back for the Browns.
Okay.
Or a
Yeah.
little stand-up tip. Best running back in Browns history. You pause like 3 seconds, wait for us to react, then you hit. I've been watching a lot of stand-up tutorials on YouTube.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
He's gonna bomb. Watch.
oh yeah, it's gonna be terrible. But I'm going in prepared at least. I'm going in prepared.
Yes.
But Nick Chubb's off.
Well, I'm glad he's on your list. He had to be on your list, or you wouldn't be able to work on the show anymore.
And that's Anthony's. That's Anthony's number one, right?
That's Anthony's favorite player, even though he's a Broncos fan.
Yeah. Anthony says, Anthony's a Broncos fan.
That's his second favorite player.
Anthony is a Broncos fan, and I'm just finding this out now.
I didn't know that.
That's why he says, "Let's ride" before every show.
Yeah, he'd be upstairs when we come down. He'd be like, "Let's ride."
Just like Russ Wilson. Yeah, he loves Russ Wilson.
Wow. Okay.
Now
all those someone. Think you know someone.
Now all those bathroom to touchdown pass TikToks he was sending makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, Anthony.
It's like find out somebody's a serial killer.
Damn.
Broncos fan among us.
I think Broncos fans worse than being a serial
Of all
killer.
the teams that you could root for, you picked the Broncos?
We have a Super Bowl in the last 20 years.
Now he's back here talking stuff.
Next.
Wow.
30 years ago, you'd have been run out of town being a Broncos fan.
No kidding. Oh my God. He took,
Okay, good. This guy had to be on it. Had to be
Ken
on it.
Griffey Jr., man.
Yeah.
Was he not the coolest baseball player when you was growing up? And I honestly think, Jay, before the injuries and all that, he probably would have been a home run king.
Where's he at?
The thought is that he played his whole career clean.
Yeah.
That's a guess.
Yeah.
That's just looking at his body and how he transformed or how he didn't transform like the others. But yeah, I think that's probably, oddly enough, Bonds was 24 too.
For a little bit.
Oh, just for a little bit?
Right, he was 25 for the majority of his career.
25. Yeah, you're right. Okay, yeah, he's got to be on the list too, the kid.
Swinging baseball.
I had the Ken Griffey Jr. Upper Deck rookie card that was worth $100 when I was a kid and thought I was going to retire. No, I still have it somewhere. It's somewhere. I thought I was going to use that to retire. That was going to fund my retirement.
Leveled out.
His shoes is not bad either.
No.
No, I know you're right. Yeah, I know.
All right, real quick, before you go next
I'm retiring on a Jordan rookie card.
Kobe has to be one of these next two, but I have no idea who the other one's going to be.
That's take number 2.
Kobe
has to
even
be
though Kobe's split time between
Right,
24 and
right.
8.
So who's
Kobe Bean
Kobe
Bryant.
too.
Mamba mentality, man.
Who's
I take
number
that
one
from the
then?
court and apply it in my everyday life.
Yeah.
Man.
No, that's a good way to,
number one?
So let's think about other number 24.
I
thought that would be number
I thought
one.
Kobe was going to be number
Yeah,
one.
I did too. I thought that for sure.
Oh,
would
give
be
us
number
one sec. Who?
I'm terrible
Ricky
with
Henderson?
jerseys.
You can't have two baseball. He's not going to have two baseball
No,
players
he won't
on
have
there.
two baseball. Maybe he could.
Maybe he could.
Oh, basketball.
Ricky also wore number 35.
I give you a hint. This is probably my all-time favorite Cleveland athlete amongst all sports.
London Fletcher didn't wear 24.
Cleveland, 24.
Cleveland.
Did Jesse Owens wear 24 when he ran? Did they have?
Jesse Owens did have a number. No.
Why did? I mean, if we're going
Track and
NASCAR,
field.
Y'all ready to see it?
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
I'm
Give us the
stumped.
sport. Give us the sport.
Baseball.
Baseball.
Indians player wore 24.
Grady Side.
Oh, Manny Ramirez.
Yeah.
Manny.
There you go.
Yeah.
Manny.
Yeah.
That is a good. You know what? There are a lot of great athletes that wore 24.
24 is a popular number.
Quick story. I was telling them upstairs, huge Manny Ramirez fan. I remember, Jay, this is right down your alley. Manny's last game at Progressive Field when it was still a J before he left and signed with Boston. He comes up bottom of the 8th. He gets a standing ovation. We're playing Kansas City. He steps out the better box, tips the cap to the crowd, steps back in, hit a home run.
That's how you go out right there. Yeah. That's how you go out.
Didn't he hit 3 home runs in his debut or something? He did something in Yankee Stadium in his debut. Maybe it wasn't 3 home runs.
Well, he
but
grew up just, in the shadow of
Washington
Yankee Stadium,
Heights.
Washington Heights. One of the things I
think he did
always
one
loved
home
about
run.
Manny was he would intentionally swing and miss at pitches that he wanted to see later in the at-bat.
Wow.
Just to get it again.
Wow.
So, he's looking for a curveball away. He flails at it, knowing that it's coming back, and now he's sitting on it with 2 strikes, and he nails it.
That's
for a home
actually
run.
that's next level thinking
It is
that I
next
didn't think
level.
he was capable of because he just grabbed a bat, went up there and swung.
I thought he was a free. My favorite Manny moment though has to be the throw from the outfield, right into the ground.
Oh yeah, when he held on to it just tick too long.
That is an all-time.
I mean, he
hysterical
famously
moment.
went into the scoreboard at Fenway.
Yep.
He was Manny being Manny was the thing for a number of
yeah.
years. But
His ESPN commercial
he
was
was a
great,
hitting
too.
savant.
Oh yeah.
He was a hitting savant.
Yeah.
Knew more about hitting naturally than most guys could ever learn from studying.
Would just wander around the locker room, take someone's pants, take someone like that.
I
that's
told
what he
you the
wore
funny
that night.
story about when he was young in his career and O.J. Simpson was on the run after the Nicole.
I don't know this one. Well, I know O.J. Simpson, but I don't know this Manny story.
Okay, he was on the run. It was called the Slow Speed Chase,
Yep.
and it dominated TV coverage.
The White
That was-
Bronco.
NBA
the
Finals
White
were on
Bronco.
that night.
NBA Finals were on that night. Well, the Indians had a home game, and when he walked into the clubhouse, everybody was glued to the TV. And he goes, "What the hell's going on here?" And they said, "Oh, OJ's on the run." Now, the Indians had a pitcher named Chad OJ. And Manny said, "What did Chad do?" All-time great, because everybody in the country knew at that time what was going on.
Yeah.
It was the dominant news story. Some called it the trial of the century.
I still have to watch that documentary ESPN did on it.
It was fabulous. It was unbelievable, really. It
All right,
was
so
very,
real quick,
very good.
me and Anthony decided the cast was going to be overtime. I'm glad that I got the chance to lead with this next topic, especially with Jay and Jason here. McNuggets, I know you are a hooper. Speaking of 224 points. That's what LeBron James needs
close now.
to
9
become
games.
the NBA's all-time leading scorer. Now, once he accomplished that feat, plus his 4 rings and being ranked top 5 of all time in assists, is he the GOAT?
It's a good question. So that's about a dozen games. There's not even a dozen. He may do it in
ESPN's
10.
projection is 9 games.
Okay.
February 9th is their projected at this current scoring rate. When
Where will that happen?
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
But February 9th was the day.
Okay.
They'll probably rig it to happen at home.
I'll start with you.
He'll sit a game to make sure it happens at Staples.
Yeah,
or
I know.
The new crypto, which, by the way, real quick aside, it's the Staples. The Crypto Center.
I know.
The crypt.
Silly.
It's
The
dumb.
Crypt. Yeah.
Yeah, it's dumb.
Yeah. Okay.
A lot of these new stadium names are dumb.
I'll let
That's a story for another day.
I'll let Jason start.
Yeah.
I love Earl. I hate these discussions, and of course I'm biased. Like,
Yeah.
I spent
You
every day
covered
with
him,
him
you know
for 4
him well.
years. Yes, so I'm biased. And these things, it's great bar talk. It's great,
It's great for a 2-hour YouTube show.
And I changed my mind. Like, I'll be honest. When I cover LeBron, I'm like, oh, he's the greatest.
What if the Athletic came to you? Let's go at it this way. The Athletic has come to you and said, in light of him becoming the sport's all-time leading scorer, you know his career as well as anyone. We want you to write a piece simply, who is the GOAT?
We actually kind of did that last year. We did a top 75, and we had LeBron. It wasn't my decision. We had LeBron 2 and Michael 1.
Yeah.
But Joe Vard and I wrote the story together on sort of making the case for number 1. And here's, I guess, where I fall on this. And I've gone back and forth. When I covered him, I thought he was the greatest. When I watched the 10-part series, The Last Dance, I thought Michael was the greatest.
Because you'd forgotten how dominant Michael was, and I was reminded by that too.
Yeah, but so here's, I guess, what gnaws at me in this whole debate. Why does Michael get a pass for losing
Yes.
in the conference finals?
I know.
All those years.
It's always driven me nuts.
So
they make it seem like he played 15 years and won 15 titles.
right.
There were 9 years he didn't make the championship round.
And Jerry West was great talking about this in the one of the Cavs Warriors years, and he said, if I was LeBron, I'd strangle all you guys in the media because his team has rarely ever been favored to win in all of these series. So he gets punished for 07 when that team had no business making the finals. None. They got swept by the Spurs. It wasn't a very good team. I mentioned this before, I just wrote a big piece on Mike Brown. I went up to Detroit and spent an afternoon with Mike, and we were talking about it. I said, that team had no business going to the finals. When you talk about
Mo Williams was their second best player.
Yeah, when you talk about a big 3 and you need 3 All-Stars, and I mean, that team, it was LeBron and nothing else. So he gets punished for that. He gets punished because Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving got hurt in the first finals against the Warriors. The Mavericks series is on him. He did not play well at all. When his first year in Miami, the Dallas, that was a disaster. That's all on him, and he knows it. But why is it that Michael lost so many times to the Pistons, and that's okay?
History has scrubbed that away.
Yeah.
Because it's convenient to their argument.
So had he gotten there a year or two early, had he knocked off Detroit a year or two early and then lost in the finals, and he's 6-2 in the finals, are we having a different discussion about LeBron? I just can't that doesn't make any sense to me. And for him to do what he did in Cleveland, that one title in Cleveland is worth 2 or 3 in the legacy.
Yeah.
In my view, coming back from 3-1, ending the 52-year drought, and the fact that he's done it with 3 different teams.
That's what's key for me.
Nobody else has done it. No other great, don't give me Robert Horry, no other great player, legendary player, has taken 3 franchises to championships. And he was the lead when Miami won. Like he was second to Dwayne that first year, and then he took over.
Yep.
And he was the guy in Miami. To do it with 3 different teams is something that no one else has done.
You're making the case, yes, he is the GOAT.
And I think he has a very strong case, and that's to take nothing away from Michael.
You don't want to definitively call him the GOAT.
Well, I don't. I mean, listen, I said it at the start. I'm biased. Yes, I think he is, but I understand I'm coming from a different place that nobody else is.
Sure.
I mean, Michael Wilbon would punch me in the face if I said LeBron was the GOAT.
There are a lot of people that would want to do that.
I'm sure, but like I use Michael because Michael covered Michael.
Sure.
Covered Michael Jordan. If you're with that guy every day, if you see the work that they put in, if you see everything up close, people who covered Kareem back in the day would say Kareem is. And just when you look at LeBron's numbers, I mean, I think I would say Michael was the greatest winner of all time. But when you look at points, rebounds, assists, LeBron's bigger, stronger, faster than Michael. He's going to beat him in history in every major category.
He did a lot more than Michael could do.
Yeah.
At a dominant level.
So it's hard.
The biggest thing on LeBron's resume when it's all said and done, and you look at the numbers, he's going to finish first in scoring.
Yep.
He's currently 6th all-time in assists. He's 9th all-time in steals. He's top 35 in rebounds. No one else has those numbers across the board.
No one.
He's going to play 20-plus years in the league. He's either tied or already has the record for most first-team All-NBA appearances. His longevity is what's going to separate him from everyone else in this GOAT debate. And however you want to weigh longevity versus finals losses, like, there's no definitive answer. And I'll tell you why I lean towards MJ by the slightest of hairs, and this could change if LeBron wins 2 more rings
then I
and
get
all
to
that.
settle it.
Yeah. I go down to the dumbest test in the world, but this is honestly how I look at it. If an alien landed on this planet today, and I had to put one person in their prime against an alien from Jupiter in a game of basketball, I'm picking Michael Jordan to go one-on-one against that alien. Is there validity to that? I don't know. I got no clue. But I have whatever reason in my gut, and maybe it is from that Miami Finals that I can't just get out of my head.
Yeah.
And it's the 6-0, which isn't fair because, like you said, with the actual context to 6-0, it's not really 6-0, and LeBron's Finals record isn't really as bad as it looks on paper. I'm taking Jordan as the ultimate killer in a one-on-one battle against an alien from Jupiter. By the slightest of margins, I give Jordan the GOAT edge. But when you look at the numbers, Jordan took 3 years off in the middle of his career.
That's exactly it.
LeBron's bubble title, which I'm calling bubble title because it happened in a bubble, he was the best in the postseason. He had 3 weeks off before then. Imagine if you gave LeBron 3 years to rest his basketball. He could play till he's 58.
Well,
it's not apples, no matter how you look at these numbers. Those numbers are apples to apples. Era, competition, everything else. There's nothing else about these two besides the fact they play basketball is apples to apples. So it's an impossible debate to have an actual answer for unless you consider my alien test. And in that case, I'm going with LeBron.
Which is, by the way, a really weird way to figure out. If I need one guy to play against an alien.
It might be honest soon, by the way. Tyvus, like in the alien test, Tyvus might have a point.
But it goes back to what I said about calling him the greatest winner of all time. I do think that's Michael. I think he's the greatest winner of all time. But 8 straight trips to the finals for LeBron. 8 straight trips. Yeah. Like, the joke was Michael made it 3 times and had to retire. And then he came back and went 3 times and had to retire.
Yeah.
8 straight trips. I can't explain the exhaustion and the mental and physical toll that takes starting in September and then playing until June.
Late
and then
June.
And then doing it again. And then doing it again. And then doing it again.
Yeah, 8
and then
years in a
changing
row.
teams. And then doing it again. 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 It's unheard of.
And Jay, before you defend LeBron, I got a pro LeBron point here, which is going to maybe counteract my Jordan alien test. But we talk about Malone, Stockton, Barkley. These guys almost get a pass for not winning a ring because they played in the Jordan era. Well, LeBron had to go against Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and arguably the greatest NBA team ever assembled. Was it 4 straight finals against the Warriors, right? 4 straight?
4 straight.
Now, they didn't have Durant for all 4, but let's not dismiss
They needed
those
Durant
teams.
to beat them.
Exactly.
They did. They had to go out and get an MVP
top
player.
A top
to
15
stop
player all
LeBron
time.
James from steamrolling
Yes.
them.
Yeah.
There you go. And
into the future.
That also might be the best point for the pro LeBron argument here, because Kevin Durant in the alien test, the aliens don't have a second alien from Pluto coming down for a 2-on-2 contest versus Kevin Love and LeBron James. So
I do recognize the greatness of Michael Jordan. I'm lucky enough to have been a huge sports fan and part of the media for Jordan's career, part of the media for the end. Never covered him. I'm just saying I was a huge observer of the sport at that time. And then my first week at ESPN was LeBron James' first game as a pro.
Wow.
So
Sacramento.
it was. I recognize the greatness of Jordan, but I don't think it's as close as everybody makes it sound. And I'll give you my reasons. Number one, Jordan walked away from the sport for 3 years.
And that's got to count for something.
It does have to. People say, well, that means that he would have won 9 in a row.
No.
No, it doesn't.
Nope.
And the fact that he walked away is a piece of evidence that I have to put into my equation. He was not a great teammate. Brad can tell stories. There have been books written on it. He was an asshole.
The Last Dance. Just watch that.
Just watch it, and it is what it is. He was a great player, so you put up with his antics. I don't know that anybody ever accused LeBron of just being a bad teammate. I mean, to a fault, LeBron shares the basketball way more than Jordan ever did.
He could drive an organization crazy.
I know he can.
In different
and
ways.
Superstars have the tendency to do that. But to me, here's the one piece of evidence that I always put out there. The 2015-16 Warriors were widely regarded as the greatest regular season basketball team of all time.
Yeah.
73
They broke the record for the most wins in a regular season. They were ridiculous. They were dominant. They were unstoppable. They were the best regular season team the sport has ever seen. In those finals, LeBron James led all scorers in the 5 metrics that box scores keep for basketball players: points, rebounds, blocks, assists, and steals.
Yep.
Guys, that's my mic drop. That's it. He did that. He didn't lead his team in all 5. He led all players in all 5 stats, and he did it against the all-time greatest regular season team the sport has ever seen, which, by the way, when Steph Curry stands at the podium and retires, and someone asks, what's the biggest disappointment of your career? It'll take him a nanosecond to answer. Not winning in 16.
Yep.
To definitively be able to say, how can you say you're the greatest team of all time if you don't win the championship?
You have
LeBron
zero claim to that.
Almost single-handedly stopped that from happening.
And was it the year they had Durant in Game 1, the J.R. Smith time
Yes.
suspension, when he had the 51-point triple-double, which I've watched a lot of it, obviously not as much as you two, just based on age. That's the single greatest performance I've ever seen by a player.
Unreal.
Ever. And that game alone, he led the game. And mind you, that was a team with 4 Hall of Famers on the other side.
Yep.
In points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks. And then obviously after that, he got hurt. I think did he punch a wall? I don't know what the truth behind that. But
The whiteboard.
The whiteboard, yada, yada. And then they got swept, and so that all gets washed away in history. But
It does.
That game loss was not on LeBron. That
Of course
game
not.
one
He
loss
did
was
everything
on
humanly
everyone else around him.
possible.
And if they win Game 1, that series
Totally
looks
different.
completely different.
I agree.
They still lose the series, but it probably goes 6. But they probably still lose. But he gets dinged for that because they got swept. And Michael would never get swept in a series.
Well,
so he gets
if Michael
dinged for
maybe
that.
played the 2017-2018 Warriors, you don't know. One thing about the points
Plus,
record,
Jordan, I mean, I know that he has played since with some great teammates.
Yeah.
But Jordan won all of his with another top 50 player.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's still in the top 50, but at the time when the NBA named its top 50.
but he's
of
in that
50.
realm, that
Yeah,
tier.
Pippen was
Yeah.
an all-time great wingman. And LeBron had to figure out ways to win with a Rubik's Cube combination of rosters.
Yeah.
In 3 different cities, he's done it. And I just think that, and I'm not a LeBron homer. As much as I love LeBron, the player and the person, I think he's, he left Cleveland twice. And I'll always hold that against him as a Cleveland sports fan. But when I look at his career objectively and what he accomplished and the fact that has any player ever led all players in a 7-game final series in 3 stat categories? Because if you think about the skill set needed to lead in points, it's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
In rebounds, it's another. Assists, it's 5 tools.
Yeah.
And he led all players.
He's the
for
most
7
well-rounded
games.
basketball player of all time.
And to
Yeah.
me, that's what this argument comes down to. I don't want the most prolific scorer. I don't want the greatest winner. I want my time capsule test is this. 20 years from now, I can reach into the vault of everybody that's ever played this game and pull out one player and start a brand new team. It's going to be LeBron.
Yep.
Michael's number 2, but LeBron's my GOAT.
And I was talking to him when they were in town a few weeks ago. We talked about obviously the record and him coming up on the record. And he said, you know what's crazy? I'm not even a scorer.
That was
I know.
That was what I was trying to make. The fact that he's going to lead.
He's not.
Yeah.
Because I think we could all agree there have been times throughout his career where like, hey, you need to score more. Like,
Yeah.
I remember.
Well, now's one of them.
Maybe in Miami, I think it was he passed in his first season. He passed up a game-winning shot to Haslam in the corner, that short little baseline jumper that he made 99.5% of the time. He happened to miss that one time in the game winner. We all crucified him.
It happened when he was here the first time.
LeBron, you have to take the shot. You're the guy. And he's like, I'm a pass-first player. And the fact that a quote-unquote self-proclaimed pass-first player is going to end up number 1 all-time on the
All-time.
NBA scoring list might be his greatest testament to the game itself based on longevity. He's going to play 20-something years and never miss significant time outside of that one season in LA, which is just unbelievable in how today's day and age, load management, athlete, there's not words to describe what it is.
I think we've convinced you to come over.
No,
to
I'm still taking LeBron. Jordan in the alien test.
You were a Jordan guy, and now you're a LeBron.
It took me until this year to really honestly realize, like, damn, LeBron James is
What
truly,
did it?
I just think when I look back over the entirety of his career and everything he's done, being ranked top 6 in assists, knowing he's a pass-first guy, just being ranked top 36 all time in every single category that matters for real. It did something to me. Like, this dude has done things that's unprecedented. Jay, this record that's done for what, 34 or 40 years?
It was never supposed to be broken.
It was never supposed to be broken.
It was
It's almost
deemed
like
to be
Emmitt Smith record,
intouchable.
right?
Deemed to be
One of those
intouchable.
ones that never be broken again.
Well, when he retired, I remember people saying, this won't be touched.
Yeah.
This will not be touched. Which,
Earl, pull up the graphic of the all-time scoring list real quick.
the all-time leaders?
Yeah, because like look at, he was 2,000 points ahead of Malone, and Malone played forever.
Yeah.
He did.
Look at Jordan. He was 6,000 points ahead of Jordan.
Now, in defense of that list,
Jordan took 3 years off.
And went to college.
Yes.
Right.
And,
So that cost him quite a bit
Well,
of
James,
time.
It did.
James
It
has
cost
played the
him
most
time.
games. So this is not a points per game or points per season list because James has more. I think he has 500 more games than Jordan. So once again, not apples to apples, but it's still a pass-first player is going to pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to be the most prolific scorer in the history of the sport.
And frankly, I have to say, like, stuff like this and conversations like this, if I'm being honest, I think it's a disservice to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. When you look at his championships, his All-Star appearances, his points, I was talking to his publicist. I did because I also did Kareem as part of our top 75 all time.
Where did he come on the list for you guys?
3. He was number 3, and his publicist said, "You know how many 3-pointers he made in his career? It was like 1."
Yeah.
And for him to score that many, or maybe it was he took 1 and made 0. I don't remember.
I was guessing. That was
But
straight
it's
guess.
like it's no more than 1 if he ever made any. And her point was he scored 38,000 points without even attempting
2 at a time.
Yeah, 2 at a time.
Yeah.
And just the longevity. You talk about longevity. The longevity that takes is remarkable. I just think, I just 20 years from now, someone else is going to come along. Maybe it's Wembanyama. Maybe in 20 years we're having the Wembanyama discussion, and everyone forgets about Michael and in the guys of the past. The farther we get in the future, the more we lose our past. And I just, on some level, I think it's a disservice to guys like Bill Russell and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar when we have these conversations, because it's a recency bias of this is what we know and this is what we've seen.
Well, we do that a lot in this business. When we oftentimes these greatest conversations tend to be in our lifetimes, things we remember.
Things that we've seen with our eyes.
Right. I can't even add Jim Brown in the GOAT running back conversation. Didn't see him play.
Right.
I don't know. I can look at paper and read stats.
We can see grainy black and white clips.
Yes, and hear
footage.
stories.
Right.
I never watched him play. I don't know. And when he
Right.
did play, they played a 12-game season and maybe a 14-game season at the end. I don't even know if it had gone to 14, but he played 9 seasons. He retired very young. I don't know. Hell, you're literally going apples and oranges now. And I know that recency bias does affect a lot of these conversations, but when I look at Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and I do think that, he would be my number 3 too, but he had such an inherent advantage over
with the teams
everyone.
that he was on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
he was on great teams, and he was giant in an era where not
so
everyone was
physically
giant.
he had this incredible built-in advantage. And I mean, if we went to a playground and we watched a game where that was all 8th graders, but one of the 8th graders was 6'6", it would be like watching the NBA when Wilt, especially Wilt.
Yeah.
Wilt was
when Wilt came in, the league wasn't equipped to deal with him. I mean, the league was Control-Alt-Deleting for 2 years. They're like, what do we do? Can we change this rule? Can we change that rule?
Yeah.
And they literally changed the rules to stop him. But Kareem also had that kind of built-in advantage, and physically, he kind of moved like a ballerina with that sky hook. He invented a shot.
That nobody could, you can't touch it.
And there was no defense to it then, and there still isn't.
I want to see more people bring back the skyhook in today's day.
I don't know why more guys don't work on it.
Yeah.
Do you know who the only person who still kind of has it is? As clunky and ugly. Brooke Lopez will pull out a skyhook every once in a while.
Really?
For the Bucks. He doesn't go in the post very often, but when he does catch it down there, it's ugly and he's
you've gotta
clunky,
be
but he just
big
goes
and graceful
whoop.
to pull it off.
Yeah.
But literally, just
It's not
by,
big, it's
by,
not
by
graceful.
physics, if you just do physics and angles and velocity, it's unstoppable.
It's impossible.
Because you'd have to be 8 foot tall
Yeah.
to be able to extend out and
Yeah.
stop that
Wembanyama is
shot.
the only guy who could ever block it. He's coming to the league next year. That's why 20 years of generation knew Wembanyama was coming, and they're just like, you know what?
Maybe.
He's going to block it, so I'm not even going to try.
I thought this was a cool conversation.
No, I'm glad
because
we did it.
I actually, there's a video of me crying like crazy when LeBron left in 2010.
Yeah.
And I actually let a stranger in my house watching Michael Jordan in '97.
I remember you told us.
That's
Yeah, so
amazing.
That's great.
It all came full circle.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those, you almost can't ask Clevelanders because there's obviously
let me ask you this.
fan
I
bias.
want to ask you this too. Alien test. Just bear with me. Would you send LeBron or would you send Jordan against an alien?
I'd send Kareem because aliens, in my mind, are
small.
very, very small human
Okay,
beings.
fair.
Shaq. I'll send Shaq.
Shaq would be
he'll eat
perfect
him.
for an alien.
Shaq will
Who
eat
you
him.
sending against the alien?
I'm probably sending Shaq too, man.
There you have it. Shaq's the GOAT.
We're just take one
we
look
just
at
spent
Shaq and be
25
like,
minutes.
where the hell did we land? and let's get the hell back in the
Yeah,
spaceship
yeah.
and onto another planet pronto.
I didn't say the alien test was foolproof.
Yeah, no,
It
it's fun to
just-
talk
it
about,
was-
though.
yeah.
It's absolutely fun to talk about. All right, so I think we settled it. LeBron's the GOAT.
Well,
Two votes-
Shaq's the GOAT.
2 votes on this panel, and Earl put it over the top. Do we want to do, what do we have? Do we have final
I
takes?
actually got some time, so if somebody got some final takes.
Because we're going to do Cavs in overtime, right? We don't
Yeah.
want to touch on Cavs here at all?
Yeah, we're gonna do Cavs in overtime. A 3-game road trip. Spider might be back. Can Evan Mobley
I hope he's
duplicate?
back. I mean, if he's not back, I start to get a little concerned if he's not back on this road trip.
I think he's back. I think he went
Yeah.
through a full practice yesterday from the sound
Right.
of things. I think he probably plays tonight.
Yeah,
he's in New York. He's going to want to go
Absolutely.
back in his hometown. I think he
Yep.
plays.
He also wants to put on a show for the Knicks, who didn't offer up as much as maybe he thought he was worth, and the Cavs did. And thank you, New York, for being suckers.
We can.
Yeah,
we can,
for mismanaging that
we
whole
can
situation.
talk about that a little bit on overtime about how the Knicks dropped the ball on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they absolutely did.
There's also, real quick, for overtime, Brunson Garland is a matchup to watch tonight because those two are going to come down to probably the final All-Star spot in the East.
I don't think it's going the Cavs' way.
Really?
One All-Star. We talked about that. Maybe.
Yeah, we did
I
talk
said,
about that.
I
but
said we get to ultimately because someone's going to bow out.
That
Yeah.
last spot, though, there's like 2 or 3 guys in that mix for that final spot. Garland's probably 3rd on that list, and
Yeah.
Brunson's probably 1st
yeah,
right now.
I think Donovan's the only
Yeah.
All-Star representative
But
for the Cavs
let's say
Af-
Garland-
after the first.
Let's say Garland goes off for 45 tonight and he locks down Brunson, then that's a head-to-head battle that you could actually head-to-head.
It's crazy. I mean, they had 3 All-Stars last year. If someone would have said next year we're going to have 1 All-Star and
And
he's
be
not
better.
currently on the team,
And he's not on the team.
you would have bet the house that could ever happen,
Yeah.
And they'd be better.
and they'd have a better record.
Yeah.
That
East is loaded.
really puts into perspective how great a move this was and how they maneuvered it and how it was, tomorrow is the Cleveland
Award show.
sports awards. And I know team of the year is going to be the Guardians. I mean, it has to be.
Yeah.
For what they accomplished. And they don't have an award for GM of the year or move of the year, but if they did, it would go to Kobe and the Cavs for what they were able to pull off, bringing Donovan Mitchell to town. It's mind-boggling how they got it done.
Yeah, I think Kobe will be in the conversation for Executive of the Year at the rate it's going. And I've got to give him credit because I pounded them. I hated the Kyrie trade. I felt like they sabotaged that window we've been talking about, the championship era.
Right.
I hated that trade. I thought it was an awful trade. You traded your second best player for a draft pick. And when you have a chance to win, Go and win and try and win and deal with the rest later. Yeah, they knew LeBron was leaving, so try and win one more. And I hated the way that ended. But at the flip side, here they are. They're this young team. Their trajectory is a certain way. Everything's pointing up, and they found a guy who fit in perfectly, age-wise, contract-wise, with where they were, and they pushed all in.
And it doesn't include LeBron.
And it doesn't include LeBron, but they pushed all in and they went for it with Donovan. And that's why I keep saying, listen, those picks may really hurt in a couple years. It may really hurt to surrender those picks. They may be top 5 picks if this whole thing is over with by then. But you have a chance to win. Take the opportunity to win and push all in and go. And that's what they did with the Donovan trade. So as much as I hated the Kyrie trade, they did the exact opposite with Donovan. And they're pushing all in and they're going for it.
Yeah.
Do you think they learned their lesson?
No.
Not lesson, I'm the right word, but did they learn from that previous mistake?
It was all, that whole end was Dan and LeBron. And
Gotcha, okay.
and that had nothing. That had to do with
LeBron really wrote that chapter when he decided to leave.
Well, they knew he was going to leave.
I know, but him making that decision, like, you got to move on. And you're losing your biggest, most significant piece.
Yeah, and you know, the first time around, Dan would tell everyone around him, "I'll never let a player hold my organization hostage again. Like, I will never put myself in that position again." So the Kyrie trade for the draft pick all came down to Dan having leverage and saying, "You're not going to do this to me again. I have this unprotected lottery pick. Like, we're going to be fine." Okay, fine. Well, you just shot yourself in the foot because we just got done talking about LeBron's performance in Game 1 of that, and everyone in that Cavs locker room, all the veterans who had won a championship, said the Warriors are vulnerable. Like, they are beatable. This team is fragile. This is not the same team as last year. We just need one more piece to really be able to apply that pressure. And they were one piece short.
Yeah.
So,
Do you want to do a final take?
Yeah, I got one real quick.
Great.
We ready? All right, so I'm not a very emotional person, but right now I'm on an emotional roller coaster. Yesterday I told you guys I was cocky about my stand-up. This morning I woke up absolutely terrified. I was at the gym yesterday, and a bunch of people I go to the gym with also watched the show, and they're like, "Yo, how can I get tickets?" And now it's kind of hitting me that I know we're going to sell this out because you guys, UCSS fans, are the best. But at first, when it was just UCSS people, I was like, you know what? They understand. I'm not that funny. Expectations are low. They'll be kind to me if I'm suck. The people outside of the UCSS realm that know me from the gym or just know me, friends, basketball, whatever, I don't know if they fully understand that that is not where I'm supposed to be. A stage in front of people making terrible jokes is not my comfort zone. And now that I know at least 2 dozen to 3 dozen people who have bought tickets, who show me the receipt, and they're coming, I feel like the bar has been raised, and I have zero confidence in myself to reach it. Listen, I can make Jay laugh. Tyvis laughs when you breathe, so easy money. Bull, I'll roast Bull, I don't care. Like, that's going to be easy, but those people aren't going to understand those easy jokes for the cheap laughs, and that means I have to get a real legitimate laugh on a real legitimate joke. And yesterday in Earl's chair, I felt like I was on top of the world. Today in this chair, I'm a little nervous, and I'm sure I'm going to wake up and go up and down this emotional roller coaster for this stand-up routine for the next, is it 2 weeks from tomorrow, these next 15 days, and I'm ready for it. If you haven't bought your ticket, you're part of the UCSS fan. We love you. Come out, and we're all going to hang out after the show.
What are we doing? Are we buying tickets as a group? Because obviously we all are going to sit together.
I texted Polk yesterday. I'm still waiting to hear back on Polk about how our ticket situation works. We posted the link on Twitter. It's our pinned tweet on Twitter. Earl, if we haven't dropped it in the chat yet, Anthony, can we drop that link in the chat? You will be able to find it. We promise it'll be out there, but it's going to be a blast. I'm telling you, I was really cocky yesterday. I feel like crap today about it. And
Can
tomorrow,
I keep on some anxiety real quick?
Yeah, please.
So there will be people in attendance who are sitting in their home Wednesday at 4 o'clock saying, honey, what do you want to do tonight?
No, we're going to sell out. They're not going to be able to buy tickets that late. I'm telling you, we're going to sell out. I sold like 36 tickets at the gym.
You are cocky. You're right.
It's going to sell out whether I'm good or not.
What does the venue hold?
I think 350.
Wow.
You're thinking we're going to sell this out in advance. Okay.
That's a
maybe.
big number.
Then let me put it to you this way. There's a couple at home sitting in their living room tonight.
Yeah.
And they're trying to fill out their social calendar for February. You know, we've got Wednesday the 15th open, honey. What do you want to do?
The 8th.
Oh, the 8th. I'm sorry.
That's what I'm terrified of.
And honey's going to say, you know, my friends went to the
Hilarities,
and they had a great time. They said the talent was great. Why don't you book tickets for that?
For the
There will
8th.
be people in attendance
Yes.
that don't know what UCSS means.
Yeah, and that's what I'm
have
terrified
never
of.
heard of McNuggets.
Yep.
And then they're going to get in their seat, and now they spent money for a good night of entertainment.
And it's
They're
for charity.
And here comes Mike Polk, our first comedian. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Mike McNuggets.
Yeah, and then
he
people-
comes running out, and they think they're going to get a pro.
That's why I'm crapping my pants. Like I said, you guys, I was fine with. UCSS people, I love you guys. My friends, they're gonna make fun of it. Even if I'm funny, they're gonna roast me for it. But now it is hitting me that this is gonna spread. I'm telling you, this will be so. I'll buy all the tickets if no one comes. I'll just buy the tickets.
Yeah,
This will
because
be-
you've assured us it's going to be a sellout.
Dad, you're buying all the tickets. Family reunion at Hilarities on February 8th.
I love it.
But there's going to be people there that have no idea what's going on,
Yep.
and that's what scares me because I'm not going to be funny enough to
Okay, well
satisfy
then now
them.
let me set your mind at ease.
Okay.
Life is a series of experiences.
Yes.
Some are great,
Yes.
some are awful. The awful in the rearview mirror oftentimes end up to be great.
My second stand-up routine is going to be about how bad I bombed my first stand-up routine. Wait for the Netflix
I was already
special is
planning a
coming.
career. We welcome back to Hilarities, Mike
Yeah,
McNuggets.
right.
I can't wait to introduce Polk when Polk's open for me in a couple months.
All right, we're out of time. We're going to go. Overtime is all calves, by the way. If you haven't joined yet, hit the join tab on the page and spend the $4.99 a month. We'll see you there.